Meet Melfina von Crawford, a girl whose life has basically been a series of unfortunate events from day one. It all started with a major scandal. Her mother went into labour right in the middle of a theatre outing, which is a huge mess for high society nobles obsessed with bloodlines. Things got even worse when she actually arrived. Since her hair and eye colours did not match her parents at all, they immediately started questioning if she was even theirs. The final nail in the coffin was when her brother was born. He looked exactly like the parents, leaving little Melfina as the odd one out and the target of her mother's hatred. Fast forward to her 16th birthday and the hits just keep coming. Her family drops the bomb that her husband has already been decided. They could not wait to get rid of their inconvenient daughter. She was shoved into a carriage and shipped off to be married before she could even blink. Her new husband is Duke Alexis of Ordland, a war hero with royal blood and a massive fan club. He might be a total hunk, but the man looks like he has zero time for games. A marriage between two powerhouse nobles like this should have been the event of the century, but the reality was far from a fairy tale. Alexis did not waste any time making his position clear. This marriage was purely political, and he warned her not to waste his time looking for affection or anything of the sort. He told her she was free to do whatever she wanted as long as she stayed out of his way. Whether it was going to the theatre or hosting events in the capital, she had total freedom. She accepted the cold truth with a simple nod. He essentially called her an eyesore and told her to keep to herself, but after such a long day, she was honestly too exhausted to care. The last 2 weeks had been a non-stop blur of carriage rides, engagement balls, and an endless wedding parade. She was finally ready for a break, but her new husband had other plans. Looking at him now, Melfina could not help but think that this man was really only good for his looks. Melfina wanted to make sure he was serious about her living however she wanted. Since marriage is a long game, she decided it was time to get a few specific terms in writing before things went any further. Melfina laid out her 3 conditions with total confidence. First, no interference. Second, living wherever she wants. And final, she wanted the freedom to go wherever she pleased without the Duke breathing down her neck. She caps it off by asking if he agrees to the terms. Just to be thorough, she asked about the heir situation. Alexis did not even hesitate, explaining that his nephew would take over the title. Since the succession was settled, she requested they waive all marital obligations. A child would only complicate things, so it was better to keep things strictly business. She knew he was not interested in her like that anyway. Alexis invited her to share any other requests while he was still in an agreeable mood. She took a moment to consider how much she could really get away with. When he asked if she just wanted to live there, she shut him down immediately. Our girl was not looking for a vacation home, she wanted full ownership of the property. Her target was a specific stretch of land at the edge of his domain near Lake Mortrel. Her request was simple, she just wanted him to hand it over. Alexis questions the choice, since the land is just a quiet lake with no strategic value. Melfina explains she just wants a peaceful life and formal ownership to ensure she can never be evicted on a whim. Alexis remains silent for a beat before finally speaking up. He acknowledges her status and vows to respect her position as his wife. He officially grants her the Enka region. His only condition is that she governs the people fairly and keeps the peace. Melfina promises to be a good ruler while secretly finding his trust amusing. They are practically strangers, yet he hands over the territory without hesitation. Everything is falling into place just as she planned. She reflects on how this moment feels like the hand of fate at work. Years ago, Melfina lived a different life defined by a desperate search for approval. She spent her childhood trying to win over her cold parents. She mastered the noble arts, from complex dancing to delicate embroidery. No other girl worked as hard as she did to become the perfect daughter. Back then, nothing she did could reach her parents' cold hearts. She clung to the hope that even if her husband never loved her, a child surely would. Despite the constant cold shoulder, she still found it in her to love her parents. Present day, as the carriage rolls along, she reflects on those former dreams. Our girl once believed that being a noble wife surrounded by children was the definition of happiness. The carriage rattles along in silence until Marie finally speaks up. She looks toward the window and says she thought she heard something outside. Marie has been a real help so far, even if she rarely says a word. She was assigned by House Ordland at the Duke's estate, and for some reason she decided to tag along when it was time to leave. She doesn't speak much, but her movements are so refined that she's likely a noble's daughter herself. Melfina assumes Marie is just a watchdog, but it does not bother her since she has nothing to hide. Since she has no interest in winning over the Duke, being watched is not a problem. Striking up a conversation, Melfina asks if Marie is engaged. Marie is quick to shut it down, saying she has no plans for marriage at all. Melfina tells her to feel free to visit the capital during the social season. It seems cruel to keep a young girl stuck in the middle of nowhere. The gesture of kindness is rejected, as Marie takes her duties very seriously. Melfina realizes she might have hit a nerve by suggesting she could handle things herself. Marie asks if she has spent time with commoners, curious about her self-sufficiency. Melfina believes that everyone should know how to take care of themselves. The wind outside is biting, a reminder of how harsh this kingdom can be. They are heading even further north into the snowy mountains where spring has not reached yet. This landscape is a far cry from Japan. Thinking back to her ordinary previous life, Melfina realizes just how far she has come. Everything kicked off during an accident on the road to Duke Audlin's domain. In that moment of chaos, just a week before her wedding, her memories of a past life came flooding back. Our girl lay dazed on the ground as her staff panicked, shouting her name to see if she was okay. With the carriage flipped over behind her, the servants scramble to check on her. She gasps for air, barely knowing where she is. The truth finally clicks. She is officially stuck inside the world of Maria of the Heart Kingdom. This was a popular Otome game about a saint from another world navigating the cutthroat royal court. It was a complex game that covered everything from domestic policy to magical medicine. The hard mode was so famous that fans joked it would turn players into trivia experts. Now, she realizes her role as the Villainess in Duke Alexis's northern route. Back in her old life, she was so obsessed with this game that she even wrote the ultimate walkthrough guide. In the game, Melfina lived in a separate townhouse and worked as the court tutor for the saint. Being the highest-ranking noblewoman meant she was always at the center of every major court event. In the original game, Melfina was a classic villain who bullied Maria just for being a commoner. She took things way too far, leading the Duke to divorce her and leave her in ruins. While Maria was winning over the Duke with her kindness, Melfina was banished to a frozen convent at the edge of the world. The game barely gave her a single sentence of closure before forgetting she even existed. Melfina was definitely spiteful in the game, but living her life feels completely different. Now that she is seeing things through these eyes, she has a lot to say about how it all went down. Divorce is technically banned in this kingdom, but the Duke found a major loophole. Since they had a white marriage and never once shared a bed, he was legally allowed to dump her. The original game never explained why their marriage stayed so cold, but looking at the situation now, the truth is finally starting to make sense. She realizes the Melfina from the game probably was not a monster from the start. She was likely just a normal girl until the world pushed her to the limit. Alexis crushed her spirit like it was nothing at all. This moment of pure rejection was probably what broke her heart for good. The original Melfina worked her soul off trying to be the perfect noble, just like I did in my past life. She just wanted a sliver of happiness in her marriage since her own family treated her like garbage. Turns out her entire existence was just one tragedy after another from day one. If the world is going to do whatever it wants, then so am I. No way am I just lying down and letting fate walk all over me. 5 days later, the journey begins. Peeking out from the carriage, she sees the sign for Enka Village. They have finally made it. This place is the definition of the middle of nowhere, sitting right on the edge of the kingdom. It is a wild, undeveloped land where only the bravest settlers dare to set foot. Even greedy magistrates stay far away from this region. It belongs to House Audland, but honestly, everyone has basically forgotten it even exists. Looking up at the manor, it is clear this is going to be a massive project. Melfina and Marie take in their new home for the first time. Cedric takes one look at the rundown surroundings and suggests they head back to the nearest town. Melfina just watches him, finally putting a name to the face. Back in the game world, this guy was the top commander of the Royal Knights and a high-ranking noble. Finding him assigned as her personal guard out here makes zero sense. Regardless of why he is here, there is plenty of work to do in this dusty old manor. Melfina leads the team inside and tells everyone to start opening up the windows to let the place breathe. Cedric plays the loyal knight card and refuses to leave her side for a simple chore. Since he is being so stubborn, she tells him to just follow her lead while she opens the shutters. The local crew finishes unloading the carriage and checks in to see if there's anything else they can handle. Melfina is thrilled to have the extra help and promises to pay them for the extra work. Marie watches from the side, looking very unamused by how quickly her mistress is spending their gold. Realizing they can't run this giant place alone, Melfina decides they need to hire some full-time help. Marie offers to head to the village and screen some potential housemaids for the manor. Melfina tells Marie to hold off on the interviews, preferring to handle the hiring process herself later. The locals introduce themselves as Ed, Cliff, and Rad, clearly eager to get to work. She immediately sends Ed off with Marie to tackle a massive grocery run. Marie leads the way out, eager to get the shopping done with her new helper. Back in the manor, Melfina realizes just how much work it is going to take to get this place livable. Rad and Cliff volunteer for the heavy scrubbing, giving her the chance to go inspect the kitchen. She finds some high-tech magic tools waiting for her, making this medieval life feel a lot more like a fantasy. Magic tech is a total win for this medieval kitchen. Melfina is definitely not complaining about the convenience. Room assignments are next on the list. This place follows a standard noble layout, so the plan is simple. Marie is a senior servant, so the attic is out of the question. Our girl decides she needs her own room before checking in with her guard. Knights usually have their own rules for where they sleep. She wonders if her new guard is a commuter or a live-in. Cedric breaks down the knight lifestyle for her. He is planning to stay on site for maximum protection. The floor plan is coming together with everyone in their place. Melfina gives her guard the green light to take any of the leftover rooms. Melfina picks up on the awkward silence and asks if something is up. Cedric is just torn because the ground floor is great for security but looks like a disaster zone. Melfina suggests the second floor, but Cedric shuts it down with a loyalty check. He is playing it safe with the rules of the Duke. Proximity is a major problem for a knight of his standing. He cannot risk the optics of living too close to the wife of his lord. The mood goes from 0 to awkward real quick. She has to scramble to clear the air before he gets the wrong idea about her intentions. Apologies are in order after that social blunder. She was just worried about him being stuck in a dusty closet, not trying to start a scandal. Reality check time. Cedric is a top-tier romance option from the game, and she totally forgot the social rules between knights and ladies. Being from the family of a count means he is used to girls wanting his attention. She never even considered how the Villainess label would affect their interactions. A hotel stay seems like the safest bet to keep things professional, but he is not biting. The first floor storage room is his final answer for a base of operations. Melfina sets the plan by offering Cedric a temporary room and promising to get him settled with some help. He is finally off the streets and officially on the clock. Cedric keeps it strictly professional with a formal thank you for the hospitality. Keeping things clear and avoiding any weird vibes is the top priority for our girl right now. The supply squad makes their entrance with a major haul from the village. Among the standard groceries, a strange wrapped package immediately grabs her attention. Appraisal skills come in clutch to reveal the secrets of the moon hair leaf. It is a natural food preservative that keeps things fresh by soaking up every drop of moisture. Marie drops some lore about travelers using these leaves to try and make jerky on the go. Unfortunately, without the right prep, it just results in some seriously tough meat. Finding out these leaves are growing all over the forest is a total game changer. Having an endless supply of natural moisture absorbers opens up so many possibilities. It is basically a medieval lunchbox that grows on trees. Seeing how the locals and shops use these in bundles gives her some major inspiration for the household. Marie apologizes for the lack of white bread. She shows off a basket of the tough commoner version instead. Brushing it off, Melfina plans to bake her own next time. She knows commoner bread is built to last, not to be soft. The maid is officially shook that a lady knows chef secrets. Melfina just plays it off as a casual hobby. Admitting her skills come from a past life is out of the question. She just keeps the fake smile going while the pot simmers. Prepping a salty soup is the only way to soften up that rock-hard bread. Melfina really wishes she had some instant bouillon. Standing there in disbelief, Marie cannot process her lady casually cooking with butter. Even though butter is a top-tier luxury, Melfina promises to make the final dish worth the expense. Melfina realizes Marie is a secret sweetheart for snagging that butter as an apology for the bread, even if the maid stays stoic. Her kindness is obvious. Comparing her current watcher to Cedric, she finds him surprisingly gentle and attentive. She knows their social status might be a barrier, but she still hopes they can bridge the gap. She flashes a smile and gives the whole crew a major shout out for their hard work. It is time to dig in while the food is still hot. The vibe in the room goes instant cold the moment she asks them to sit. Their frozen expressions make her worry that she accidentally broke some unspoken rule. Ed stammers that eating at the same table as her is way too presumptuous for them. Thinking she is the problem, Melfina offers to eat in her room, which only makes the guys panic more. The guys practically trip over themselves to insist she eats first while they wait their turn. They are absolutely not ready to break the traditional rules of rank. She points out that this house is basically just a merchant home rather than a grand castle. In her eyes, there is no need for such strict formality in such a modest place. Melfina keeps it real, telling them she's not about that high and mighty noble life. She made the food herself and just wants to eat like a normal person. Since they are still acting stiff, she switches tactics and asks them to help her practice for a commoner life. The guys are completely lost by the request. She explains that she is done with the fancy noble traditions. Her focus is on her future here, and she wants to start living for real. Melfina points out that she won't be able to kick people out of a village tavern just to eat. Learning to share a table is a basic survival skill. Cedric finally breaks the tension by telling Marie to take a seat. He notes that they really shouldn't make the mistress ask a third time. With the squad finally sitting down, she gives them a huge shout out for their help. The bread and soup are finally ready for the big reveal. One taste of that white soup and the boys are losing it. They have never had anything this good in their lives. Even the usually calm Marie is straight up blown away by the meal. Melfina thinks she is overreacting, but Marie insists it is the best thing she has ever tasted. The guys are right there with her, claiming this stir-fry and soup would beat anything in the capital. Melfina takes a sip of her drink, just glad her cooking skills haven't faded after 16 years. Suddenly, the drink hits her hard and she is struggling to keep it together. Marie goes into full panic mode, offering to go grab some hot water immediately. Melfina waves her off, deciding to wait until the meal is over for a chaser. In this world, clean water isn't guaranteed, so everyone just chugs low alcohol ale to stay hydrated. While the commoners drink ale, nobles usually stick to fancy teas and wines, but with her modern memories back, Melfina realizes most of this luxury wine tastes pretty low quality. Seeing her reflection in the soup makes her realize how much she took for granted in her past life. Safe tap water and fresh food without a spoil check were the real luxuries. She stops the trip down memory lane, knowing she just has to make the most of her new life. The table talk shifts when Rad mentions her search for new servants. Rad and Cliff shoot their shot and ask Melfina for a job. They list every skill they have, from tending gardens to patching up roofs. Melfina is caught off guard by the sudden offer. She is hyped and thanks them with her whole heart, but she stops to ask if they are really okay leaving their families in the capital behind. The boys explain that they are all from the same village and have no family holding them back. Since seasonal labour is a total grind, they were already looking for a way out. They admit they lack a fancy education and are used to being treated poorly for low pay. All they want is a chance to work hard for her. Ed tells her she is too kind, and that today was the most fun he has ever had at work. Melfina is so touched she does not even know how to react. She promises to never be a cruel boss, but worries if they can handle her big plans. As the new lord, she is going to need a lot of help to get her initiatives running. The guys tell her they can handle anything as long as she does not beat them or leave them out in the freezing cold. Hearing about their past trauma makes Melfina realize just how much these guys have actually suffered. Marie steps in to back her up, explaining that these guys are totally off the Duke's radar. Cedric looks like he is about to have a stroke from the sudden intervention. Marie gets serious, reminding Melfina that she needs a squad that is actually loyal to her and not the Duke. She even has a personal favour of her own to ask. It is time to make it official as Melfina promises to get their employment contracts ready. The boys can hardly contain their excitement at the news. Melfina decides it's time to ditch the formalities and asks both Marie and Cedric to start calling her by her name. Cedric gives her the most formal response possible while admitting that dropping her title is a huge struggle. Old habits die hard for a knight like him. She does not push it, realizing that a knight of Ordrande has a reputation to maintain. Letting the wrong name slip in public could cause a whole mess of trouble for his career. As the night winds down, Melfina hits the books while feeling lucky about the group she has managed to assemble. She is genuinely relieved to have some good people around her. Ever since those memories of her past life came flooding back, our girl has been documenting everything. Her history, the future, and the total mess this life was supposed to become. Avoiding the capital for 2 years is the plan to skip being the heroine's tutor. Maria can have her romance with Alexis, provided Melfina keeps Enkar for herself. Returning to her family home is the one thing she must avoid. A noblewoman without an heir is just a pawn to be traded or dumped in a convent, and she is not having it. According to the original game, Melfina lived a hollow life of luxury to mask her loneliness. That path led her straight into becoming the villainess once the heroine appeared. The injustice of her original life is hard to ignore when it is all laid out like this. Accepting that fate is out of the question. Since she knows what is coming, she has a chance to fight back, but she needs a solid status first. Securing the rights to Enkar village and becoming a feudal lord was the first step. In a class-based world, having your own land and title is the only way to actually stay safe. She slams the journal shut with a clear goal in mind. With over 2 years until the heroine Maria makes her entrance, she has just enough time to build a solid foundation for her new life. Chasing her parents' love is officially a thing of the past. If they are going to act selfishly, then she will just find happiness on her own terms. With Cedric, Marie, and the rest of the crew by her side, the mission is simple. She wants to live freely and in peace, far beyond the reach of everyone who ever rejected her. Our girl stares out into the night as the candle burns low. As of right now, that is her one and only wish. A new notice just arrived and the timing could not be worse. The new lord is showing up way ahead of schedule and the village is already being ordered to get the manor ready. Nobles usually wait for the summer harvest, so this sudden spring arrival means everyone has to scramble to get the place cleaned up. The manor has basically been a ghost house for years since no noble ever bothers visiting this remote corner of the world. The chief figures they can just finish planting the spring potatoes first and clean up later, thinking it will not be a big deal. Wrong, a villager rushes in with the worst update possible that the Lord carriage already arrived this morning. Even crazier, the Lord attendants handled the cleaning themselves. The chief collapses in total despair, convinced they have already offended a noble. He has spent his whole life warning the youth about how terrifying these high society types can be. He remembers a nightmare from 40 years ago when a ruthless baron demanded half the harvest during a famine. It did not matter that people were starving, the development quotas had to be met. Back then, some brave souls tried to protest the cruelty, but it did not end well for them. Back then, the old chief's father gave him a survival guide for dealing with the elite. Just bow your head and wait for the storm to pass. The chief is currently in his feelings, convinced that visiting a noble at this hour is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. He is ready to sacrifice himself if it keeps the rest of the village safe. He knows how these high society types operate, and bothering them during their relaxation time is usually a huge mistake. He decides to play it safe and wait until tomorrow afternoon. Plot twist, our girl Melfina beats him to the punch and shows up at his place with a smile. She is actually apologizing for dropping in unannounced. She keeps being humble about the lack of staff, but the chief is already having a full mental breakdown. He is stammering for his life while his brain enters a state of panic. While the old man is busy bowing and begging for mercy, Cedric sets the record straight. The young lady is the lady of the house, he notes, while the chief continues to lose his mind. Our girl gets right to business, pitching her plan to use the neighboring serf village to develop the Western territory. She asks if taking their labor would mess up the current harvest to make sure she respects their system. The chief is basically glitching, telling her to do whatever she wants while sweating bullets. He waves it off, explaining that the current crew can handle the local fields just fine. Bro is doing the math in his head. He realizes that as long as they do not overwork everyone or expand too fast, the tax collectors will stay away. Melfina secures the deal and then pivots to a weirdly specific question about last year's wheat straw. The chief is genuinely confused by her sudden interest in farm trash. She clarifies that she is looking for the leftover bits from the harvest. The chief explains they use the straw for everything from fixing roofs and bedding to weaving baskets. Melfina asks if the livestock get any, but he admits they only give a tiny amount to the milk cows. The chief explains that since most of the livestock are just roaming pigs and chickens, there's not much demand for actual feed. Our girl starts asking about the leftovers, finding out they either plow the surplus back into the ground or just dump it by the mountain. She hits him with a curveball, asking if she can just take all that junk. The old man is genuinely short-circuiting at the request. Checking if anyone actually owns the trash, he assures her it is just useless waste they have already tossed out. The questions keep coming as she asks about bones and food scraps. She even wants a full tour of the village waste piles later. The chief mentions the pigs eat most of the scraps, but the bones are dumped near the straw. Melfina instantly asks if she can have those too. Sweating bullets, the chief reminds her that as the lord, everything in the village already belongs to her anyway. Our girl gives a polite bow and thanks him, mentioning she will reach out again if anything else comes up. The village chief is left in a daze, wondering if he is ever going to get that lecture about the messy manor. Marie fits Melfina with her hat as she prepares to depart. Our girl waves him off with a final word. Before leaving, she asks for the old man's name. He introduces himself as Lutz while clutching his chest, still clearly on edge. She takes the name to heart. She tells him to drop the formal titles and just call her Melfina. Formalities really are not her thing. Suddenly, a man and an older woman come running out of the house. They are shouting for Lutz, terrified that something happened to him. The woman wraps Lutz in a hug, relieved that he is still standing. His son is actually joking that he lost his chance to become the new chief. Lutz realizes the scary noble storm is finally over. Lutz watches her walk away, fixated on the fact that she plans to return. The mere thought of using her first name has him sweating bullets. He admits that dealing with nobles at his age is taking years off his life. Lutz is officially done with the high-stakes noble world. He thinks maybe it is finally time to retire and let his son deal with the headache of being chief. Cedric looks out as the village comes into view. He asks if she is really sure about this, but Melfina is locked in. She did not come all this way just to turn back now. Cedric warns her that a serf village is no place for a lady, citing the lack of manners and sanitation. Our girl simply points out that expecting royal-level etiquette from struggling commoners is completely unreasonable. A brief silence fills the carriage. She makes it clear that since they are the ones asking for help, she has no intention of forcing noble customs on them. Melfina can practically feel the thick waves of distrust coming from the people around her. She knows they likely see her as a clueless noble playing ruler at the edge of the world. She wonders if they find her pitiful or just plain annoying. Either way, she knows they only obey because her status gives them no other choice. The carriage finally pulls up to the village gates, drawing the attention of three scruffy children. Melfina knows she is not acting like a traditional noble, but this is her own way of doing things. Ignoring Cedric's pleas to stay upright, Melfina kneels in the dirt to greet the kids. She gives them a warm smile and introduces herself, asking for the boy's name. The kid proudly introduces himself as Rodo before Melfina asks him to fetch the village leader. While Rodo dashes off to help, Cedric starts losing his mind because seeing a noble kneeling in front of a serf is a massive taboo. Cedric insists that rank is everything, but she quickly puts a pin in that conversation for another time. Melfina knows their values are bound to clash since her modern memories do not exactly mesh with this world's strict class system. Sensing his frustration, she realizes they will eventually need a real talk about her unconventional way of doing things. The village leader finally arrives with Rodo, looking like he is about to faint from the stress of meeting a noble. Melfina keeps it classy, officially introducing herself as the Duchess of Ordland and the new lord of the region. Melfina meets the local boss, a nervous guy named Nid who runs the settlement. She keeps it chill, thanking him for the grind and asking how the land development is going. Nid explains that now that winter is over, the kids are finally eating, but they still have no money for taxes. Melfina cuts him off, making it clear that she did not come here to collect. She promises not to make any crazy demands and asks for a tour of the cleared land. Nid agrees but seems confused when she decides to hop out of her carriage instead of riding in style. Melfina tells Rhodo that if he is walking, then she is walking too. She asks her new little knight to show her the ropes around the village. Rhodo is absolutely vibing and asks if she is a princess while they hold hands. She corrects him by saying she is the lord, and they start heading off while Cedric stares daggers from the background. Cedric finally loses it and roughly pulls the kid away. He screams that a common serf should never touch the Duchess, leaving Melfina completely stunned by the sudden aggression. Melfina steps in and blocks her guard, telling him he needs to shut it right now. Cedric tries to defend himself, but his boss is officially done with his attitude. Melfina snaps at Cedric, telling him to pipe down or return to the capital immediately. She quickly shifts gears to check on Rhodo, asking if the little guy is all right after that rough encounter. Rhodo rubs his head with a grin, claiming he landed just fine despite the fall. Melfina stays worried and tells him to take it easy for the rest of the day, just in case he has any internal injuries. The boy laughs it off, bragging about how he once fell off a giant rock and came out totally unscathed. Melfina looks down with a heavy heart, eventually offering a sincere apology for the trouble. Rhodo is confused why she is the one apologizing when she did not do anything wrong. Melfina explains that, as the one in command, she is responsible for her knight's actions and apologizes one more time. Rhodo flashes a bright smile and officially forgives her so she can stop feeling bad. Melfina is touched by his maturity and gently takes his hand, thanking him for being such a kind boy. Time to head back for the day. So Melfina bows her head in one last apology to the village leader. The poor guy nearly has a heart attack seeing a duchess bow to him and begs her to stop. Melfina makes sure the leader knows the fault lies with her knight's rude behavior and not them. She tells them to send word to her manor immediately if Rhodo feels sick later while Cedric sulks in the background. Marie shuts the carriage door as Melfina gives the signal to head out. Our girl is ready to call it a day and tells Rad to take them back. The carriage rolls away across the hills, leaving the village behind. Inside the carriage ride back, Melfina asks Marie if she made a mistake. No matter what anyone says, she was determined to stick to her path. The road ahead is long, and she reflects on her new perspective. Regaining her memories changed everything about how she views the world. She can't shake the image of Rhodo. Seeing the kid hurt because of her decisions weighs heavy on her heart. Marie speaks up to stop the spiral. She makes it clear that Melfina isn't in the wrong and asks to speak frankly. It all comes down to rank. As the lord of this region, nobody has the standing to judge her actions. Technically, the Duke is the only one who could voice a complaint. Even then, he can only judge her behavior as a wife. In this territory, her word is final. Even the royal family stays out of a noble's domain management. Marie confirms that Melfina's logic is spot on. Playing the political game is essential to avoid rubbing the other noble families the wrong way. The power dynamic on this continent is basically a delicate balance between the royal family and several elite clans. Royalty might be the strongest, but the whole system is built on a peaceful alliance between all the major players. This means every noble's land is practically its own independent nation. Within their own borders, their authority is absolute. Since she is the Lord of Enkar, she has the green light to run things like a queen, without anyone having the right to judge her. Marie makes it clear that any knight stepping out of line to criticize her is the one in the wrong. She gives Melfina the ultimate stamp of approval. The pieces finally start falling into place. Melfina begins to understand the specific way Cedric has been viewing her this entire time. Melfina starts to realize that Cedric sees her as the Duchess of Orderland rather than just a local leader. Since he views her through that high noble lens, any casual behavior from her seems completely out of place to him. His primary duty is her safety, and he will do whatever it takes to protect her from anyone unknown. From a knight's perspective, he is actually doing his job perfectly, even if his methods are harsh. Letting out a long sigh, Melfina thanks Marie for the talk. Getting those heavy thoughts off her chest makes her feel a little better about the whole situation. Marie opens up a bit, mentioning that she has a younger brother of her own. She had to leave for service early and could not be there for him, but she still thinks of him fondly. She admits that she just wants to see young boys able to smile without any worries. Seeing Melfina show such genuine concern for Rhodo really touched her heart. The conversation leads to a firm decision. Melfina knows she cannot avoid it anymore and needs to have a proper talk with Cedric to clear the air. The carriage finally rolls back onto the estate grounds just as they finish their talk. Ed is busy sweeping the entrance and is surprised to see them returning so much earlier than usual. Melfina arrives back at the estate and gives Ed a quick shout out for his hard work, keeping the gate clean. The rest of the crew stays busy with the horses while she prepares to head inside. No time for tea or pleasantries. She heads straight inside and tells Marie and Cedric that they need to have a real talk immediately. Cedric's rigid code won't let him sit at the same table as his lord, but Melfina is too focused on getting confirmation to care about etiquette. She stares them down and asks the big question that has been on her mind. What exactly did the Duke tell them about her before they were sent here? Cedric only heard she was the Duke's official wife, but Marie reveals she was warned that her stay as a maid probably wouldn't last very long. Cedric is losing his mind, shouting about why any of this matters when Lord Alexis just got married. Melfina watches him, realizing her staff is operating on two different sets of info. Marie got the private truth about the sham marriage, while Cedric was only given the official noble version. It all clicks. Her decision to move to the countryside right after the wedding was so un-duchess like that, it left the entire mansion completely baffled. Melfina leans in and asks how much gossip he has actually heard from people other than the Duke. She asks point blank if he knows the rumors about her and her mother, calling him out the moment he tries to play dumb. Melfina play it cool by saying her family is basically a big deal in the capital. She claims everyone knows her, so it is no surprise he heard the rumors. But he asks the one question: why does she know her family name? Melfina keeps a steady smile while dropping a logic bomb, asking if he really thought her family stayed in the dark about his background. Cedric is left speechless as his secret is laid bare. Not all knights roll with noble family names or fancy titles. Like everyone else, Cedric kept things low-key by only introducing himself as a simple guarding knight. Melfina reflects on how her combo of past life gaming knowledge and current noble training is basically a legal cheat code for this world. Melfina looks away with a heavy heart, wondering if he sees her as just some irresponsible wife who ran away because people think she was swapped at birth. Bro is visibly sweating and insists he would never do such a thing. Melfina knows a guy this honest would show it on his face if he was actually lying. She maintains her noble facade to stay in control of the situation. Their social status acts like a wall that keeps them from ever understanding each other. Time for a reality check. She admits that her title is basically just a legal formality. She drops the ultimate truth bomb about not being the official wife. The silence in the room is deafening. The details of the wedding night are even worse than they thought. Cedric realizes that under church law, this whole marriage could be considered invalid. Processing the scandal is too much for the knight right now. Melfina just calmly asks her maid to fetch the documents she has tucked away in her desk. Our boy is shook as he stares at the marriage contract, realizing it is the Duke's actual handwriting. Melfina does not miss a beat, confirming the paperwork is legit while he tries to process the scandal. Melfina stays calm, sitting back and figuring the Duke is not looking for a divorce just yet. She thinks she is just being kept around so he can keep a close eye on her movements. She explains that keeping the assigned staff is just her way of showing sincerity while she still carries the order and name. Cedric is left speechless as she asks if he finally understands the situation. Our girl literally gives him a free pass to leave, suggesting he can just lie and blame her tantrums to get a transfer. She is basically handing him a reputation safe exit on a silver platter. Cedric shuts her down fast, refusing to take the bait. Melfina keeps pushing anyway, claiming she is not even a real duchess and is not worth his protection. Even with the exit plan on the table, he insists his orders come from the top. Melfina finally snaps and drops his full name, demanding he start listening to her instead. He shouts back that he cannot protect her if she keeps letting random strangers get close to her. The professional mask is finally off, and he is just pure frustration. Melfina suggests he head back to the capital and let her hire an adventurer instead. She is even ready to write to the Duke herself if he won't quit. This dude is actually hesitating. He asks for some time to think while our girl just watches him process the reality check. He walks away to clear his head, and Melfina knows she's putting a lot of pressure on him. There's still one major problem she hasn't mentioned yet. This whole world is basically an Otome game meant for a girl named Maria who shows up in 2 years. Turns out, Cedric is one of the main love interests for the future heroine. In the original story, Cedric falls hard for Maria and risks everything for her while our girl ends up ruined. Keeping him around right now is a risky move for her future safety. Marie steps in and asks if she can have a word. Melfina gives her the floor, wondering what the maid has to add to this chaotic day. A bombshell drops when the maid announces she wants to quit the Duke's staff and work directly for Melfina. Cedric looks like his brain just short-circuited. We are kicking things off with a massive bombshell. Marie is ready to risk it all, asking to quit her job with the Duke and serve Melfina full-time. Cedric is fuming at the disrespect, but our girl shuts him down immediately. She senses something deep in Marie's eyes and demands an explanation for this sudden move. Melfina is not so sure about this. Quitting a high-status job is career suicide, and she tells Marie that she cannot support such a reckless decision. Serving a house as powerful as the Duke usually requires noble blood or major connections. Marie is currently at the top of the social ladder. A maid in the capital can easily marry into a noble family. Giving that up for a developing frontier village is basically throwing her entire future away. Marie finally breaks her silence about her family. Her father was a direct retainer for the former Duke, and her mother was nearly 30 years his junior. Her parents spent their lives at the Duke's estate, and that is where Marie was born. Melfina is left stunned by the unexpected origin story. Melfina finally sees the vision. Looking at Marie, the family resemblance to the Duke is suddenly undeniable. Marie starts dropping the family law. She was shipped off to the Duke's estate for training as soon as her younger brother was born. The secret is finally out. Marie is the former Duke's illegitimate child, which makes her Alexis's secret half-sister. High society usually has noble daughters serving as apprentices, but getting that spot from the start was a clear sign of favoritism. A real maid-tier job is reserved for serving the ladies of the house, but this estate was empty of mistresses for years. The job was basically a front to keep her living a high-status life. It was a way for the family to take care of her without the drama of an official title. She was practically the lady of the manor in everything but name. Melfina gets the vibe now, but that makes Marie's choice to quit even more wild. Marie explains her family situation is a non-issue because she is estranged and her parents are gone. Melfina points out that after 10 years of service, her resignation won't hurt her reputation, but Marie insists it is about something else. It hits Melfina that the Duke kept Marie close for the same reason his father did, intending to treat her like the sister she actually is. She suspects the Duke assigned Marie to her as a strategic bridge to high society. Having a former noble as a maid would open doors to the royal palace that usually stay locked. A maid as beautiful and young as Marie would naturally turn heads and attract a ton of attention from the palace officials. It clicks that Cedric is in the exact same boat. As a member of a court earl's family, his role as a guard knight gives him effortless access to the capital's inner circle. Melfina can't help but feel the Duke is finally getting a taste of his own medicine. He probably never expected his hand-picked staff to follow her all the way to this remote frontier. The vibe shifts as Melfina finally asks why the sudden career change. Marie doesn't skip a beat and admits she just isn't cut out to be a maid, leaving the room in a stunned silence. Back in the day, Marie hated every second of her noble upbringing. She found it embarrassing to just watch while other kids her age were actually working. She just wanted a simple life with cotton clothes and street food. Looking back at the present, she confesses that she truly envies Melfina. Marie notes how Melfina handles the chores herself and refuses to play the duchess role. To our girl, keeping up appearances in this village is just a waste of time. Watching Melfina vibe with the locals is a total eye-opener. She is completely unbound by status and just lives her best life. But there is a dark side to that freedom. Marie explains that receiving a title without a real position is actually a slap in the face. Her social standing is a total trap. She will never be a real noble daughter, and marrying a commoner would just tank the reputation of the Duke's staff. Everything about her situation is just a nuisance. Melfina is left speechless, realizing these high-class problems are heavier than they look. Melfina isn't buying the game logic. This world might be scripted, but the poverty people are facing here is as real as it gets. Fine clothes and high status aren't enough to make a life. Our girl knows exactly how it feels to have everything on the outside while being totally broken on the inside. Because her parents were basically ghosts. She spent her childhood buried in books. She tried so hard to be the perfect noble lady just to get a scrap of attention. Then the game's main character, Maria, showed up and stole the show. Melfina was left with nothing but her pride, only for her husband to reject her on their wedding night. Maria didn't have the training or the etiquette, but she still got all the love. Even the Duke, who treated Melfina like a stranger, was head over heels for the saint. The two of them got their happily ever after while Melfina was shipped off to a convent. Just imagine the absolute pain of hearing about their perfect life from a distance. Cut back to the present, and Melfina respects Marie's choice. Cedric is completely stunned as Marie offers a genuine thanks for finally being seen. Cedric stays quiet while Melfina puts the ball in Marie's court, asking if she wants to stay a maid or if there's something else she is dreaming of. Marie drops the bomb and asks to be the official secretary instead of just a servant. Seeing the shock on her lady's face, she starts flexing her resume, proving she can handle everything from complex math to managing the entire household. This girl is ready to go all in on helping her lord rule this land properly. Our MC is totally down and promises her the same pay, while the maid gets emotional and vows to crush her new job. It is official now, and Melfina gives her the warmest welcome to the team. As the day wraps up, the icy wall between the knight and the maid starts to crumble just a little bit. New day, new grind. The doors fly open as the squad greets our girl Melfina. She is already locked in, acknowledging Marie and Cedric as they prep for the daily schedule. Our MC is not wasting any time. She gives the order to head straight to the serfs' village, ready to get her hands dirty. The mission is simple but huge. Step 1 is officially taking control of the territory. It is all about strategy from here. She needs to secure her position before the game starts, especially if the heroine Maria goes for the Alexis route. Back in her past life, she was a total trivia nerd for this Otome game. Even though she has never run real land before, she remembers the agricultural reform scenarios from the hard mode routes. She knows game knowledge only goes so far in the real world. Still, she has no choice but to bet it all on what she remembers. Time is running out if she wants to stay ahead of the original story. She gets a briefing on the current situation of the village land development. Melfina makes the call to stop the forest clearing for now, prioritizing efficiency over brute force. Cedric and Marie take the order without a single complaint. Since clearing trees is back-breaking and slow, she decides to just gather the lumber they need. Nid simply agrees, though the guy looks pretty wiped. Our MC gets straight to the point, pulling out a scroll to start her planning. She looks around and asks if there's even a desk in this village to work on. Nid delivers the grim news that they don't even have dining tables and just eat on the straw-covered floor. Instead of complaining, Melfina just drops to the ground and spreads her map out right there. She starts laying out a precise grid on the map, detailing exactly how the new fields should look. Every plot is getting a specific measurement of 20 by 50 meters. Nid is stressing out, pointing at the map, and reminding her that the area she picked is just total wasteland. She tells him not to sweat the details and just focus on tilling where they set the stakes. The villager is still worried about the hard ground and failed crops, but Melfina just gives him a confident smile. She promises that they will improve the soil and pick the right plants to turn this wasteland into a success. Nid is shook by the idea of soil improvement. Melfina explains it is just about making bad land actually usable for farming. A kid sprints over screaming about some massive trouble. Melfina looks up to see a long caravan of carts and donkeys rolling into the village. It turns out she ordered 20 carts and 40 donkeys to haul the goods. Since she hates wasting a trip, she packed them with farming tools and seeds as well. The local crew is losing their minds looking at the shipment. They can barely believe what they are seeing in the back of those carts. One guy checks out a new axe and notes how sharp the blade is. The quality is so high, it makes their old gear look like toys. Melfina tells them that good tools are a must for getting things done. She tried to find blacksmiths to come out this far, but she will have to hit up the guild to find some later. The villagers can handle the basic upkeep, but wonder if they are really allowed to use such expensive gear. Melfina gives them the green light without a second thought. Melfina is eyeing the map and planning for the long haul, knowing grapes need time to grow. She wants to start a vineyard gradually, but for now, she is looking at the immediate goals for the year. Instead of the usual wheat, she tells Nid they are going all in on beans and corn. She is not about to hand over taxes until her people are actually full. Most of the wheat crops usually get swallowed up by taxes and land rent, leaving the workers with almost nothing. They are stuck living on stored beans just to make it through the year-round cycle. Nid is looking a bit stressed because corn is usually just animal feed near the capital. He asks if they are planning to start livestock farming instead. Melfina keeps it simple, explaining that they are sticking to pigs and chickens for now. This year is all about producing enough food for everyone to survive. She starts listing off all the ways to cook corn, from soups to frying it, and admits she is a huge fan herself. She catches herself mid-sentence and stops when she realizes she is being a bit too informal. With a finger to her lips, she asks him to keep her love for commoner food a secret. She knows it is not very noble of her, but admits it is probably too late to hide it now. Nid is completely stunned. Most nobles stay in their carriages, but this girl is built different. Usually these high-class types just take your food and hide in their mansions. They definitely do not kneel in the dirt to talk strategy with commoners. It is a total culture shock for the locals. Nid realized he is dealing with a one-of-a-kind ruler. Time for some agricultural warfare. Melfina watches as the slash and burn phase gets underway. The safety measures are all set. They cleared the perimeter so the fire does not get out of hand. Once the flames die down, it is time to prep the soil. Nid is not taking any chances and sets up a night watch to keep the embers in check. The plan is coming together as the supplies arrive. Melfina knows that mixing ash and charcoal into the dirt is the secret to a bumper crop. Melfina gives Nid a sketch for some circular wooden frames and orders 20 of them built near the fields. She wants them to be exactly 5 strides wide. The workers are already fired up and ready to move. Our MC takes a second to breathe and lets out a relieved sigh, but the grind never stops because someone is already calling for her. Rodo is confused why potatoes are off the menu this year. Melfina confirms the change and asks if he even likes them that much. He admits he is not really a potato fan. He was just worried about her promise that they would finally get to eat their fill. Melfina reassures him that the corn and beans are going to be just as good. That is all it takes to get the kid hyped again. Usually commoners live on potatoes because they are easy to grow and keep you full. The only problem is that everyone is currently growing the same exact variety. Melfina knows this is a huge gamble. She starts weighing the risks of everyone focusing on just one single crop. In the world of Maria of the Heart Kingdom, an epidemic is scheduled to start exactly 2 years before the game begins. This dark turn of events leads to a famine where countless people are destined to lose their lives. The exact death toll is unknown, but the epidemic will devastate all the surrounding countries. It only ends when the saint finally descends 2 years later, leaving everyone to imagine the horror in the meantime. That 2-year disaster is looming right over them now. To fight the coming famine, Melfina knows they need alternative crops, even if she is not entirely sure her simple idea will actually work. Melfina takes a moment to process the weight of the future. She quickly shakes it off and tells Rodo they need to do everything they can while they still have time. 2 weeks pass in a flash. The team is already hard at work ploughing the fields and getting their hands dirty. The first batch of prep is finally ready. Melfina gives the order to start mixing it into the ploughed fields to create the raised rows they need. They have already cleared the wasteland near the village by cutting down trees and pulling out every single root. Now, they are lightly mixing ash into the soil to give the ground a much-needed boost. Things are moving way faster than expected. It is great for the deadline, but the speed is honestly a bit suspicious. Our girl tells the crew to call it a day, since it is getting late, but they are not having it. These guys are actually hyped to keep tilling, like their lives depend on it. She gives in and tells them not to overdo it, but they just charge back into the field. She cannot help but wonder if they are actually doing okay with this pace. Seeking some answers, she catches up with Nid to make sure everyone is taking breaks. He confirms they took one at lunch, which is definitely not enough. He drops the bomb that the whole squad goes straight back to work the second they finish eating. The shock on her face says it all. Working non-stop with only a lunch break is the definition of overworking. She tries to explain that this is not normal behavior at all. Nid just looks down and apologizes, saying they are just trying to meet their assigned tasks. It is clear there is some heavy history behind why they are pushing this hard. Melfina realizes the assigned tasks are just a cruel trap. These harsh quotas are designed to force people into debt they can never pay back. Knowing the facts is one thing, but seeing the reality of constant labor is another. This cycle of work is the only life these people have ever known. A serf is defined as someone who sold their rights just to survive. It is a one-way ticket into a life of serving a lord for nothing. The cycle does not even end with the parents. Their children are born into the same status, creating entire villages trapped in hereditary debt. Treated like livestock, they are moved to whatever land needs work. Even with laws against abuse, they are only given the bare minimum to stay alive. Freedom technically costs 3 gold coins for a group that is constantly being squeezed for every cent. That price tag is basically a joke. Heavy taxes and endless quotas make it impossible to ever save up. The exit is right there, but the system ensures nobody ever reaches it. Making families work for generations over 3 measly gold coins is a total scam, especially when people in the capital make double that in a single year. Time for a policy change. She announces mandatory breaks throughout the day, catching the whole crew off guard. She is not just being nice, she is being smart. She reminds them that burnout kills productivity and they need to look out for each other. The villagers gather around to inspect the new goods. They are shook that something made of waste actually smells totally fine. Technical difficulties are the next topic. They need to figure out the right moisture levels so the fermentation actually works its magic. Marie is caught staring at the setup with a look of pure focus. Melfina just giggles, telling her she is way too easy to read. Marie is still trying to process the magic. She cannot believe how something made from trash could actually be this clean. Agriculture science time. Melfina explains how proper fermentation is the secret to clean fertilizer that will not rot the fields. Scaling up is next on the menu. She plans to pool the village livestock for a massive compost operation, to the surprise of Marie. Marie steps in and forces a much-needed breather before anyone hits a wall. Melfina calls for a mandatory group break, practicing what she preaches. Chilling with some tea is the vibe until a random kid pops up with a very strange question. She wants to know if the new Lady Lord is actually a witch. Friendly introductions follow as she meets the little girl named Rena. The kid is already a massive fan, even if the name is a bit of a mouthful. Panic sets in as the mum rushes in to apologize for the conduct of her child. Melfina just laughs it off and offers a chill nickname to ease the tension. Something about this woman does not add up. Her pronunciation is way too refined for a typical serf, suggesting she has a hidden background. Illy is still playing it safe and refuses to sit, even when invited to join the group. Rena has no such hesitation and hops right onto the wagon bench for her drink. One sip of the brown water and Rena is instantly obsessed with the flavour. Melfina just laughs and explains that this magic juice is actually just barley tea. The taste is a total blast from the past for her. Even if it is lukewarm, it is the exact comfort vibe she needed right now. Melfina asks why the little girl called her a witch, and the answer is just her listing every chore she has seen. Her mum looks like she wants the ground to swallow her whole from the embarrassment. She laughs it off and tells her it is totally okay before shifting the topic to the farmers. She wants to know if Rena understands the work happening out in the fields. Rena admits she was worried that veggies would never grow in such a wasteland. Melfina explains that the soil is just hungry and they are currently feeding it nutrients to fix that. The kid is genuinely curious if the fields can actually get healthy again. Our MC turns it into a teaching moment and asks her what she thinks makes crops grow strong. Rena thinks hard and suggests sunlight and water as the secret source. Melfina gives her a win for that answer but asks if she can think of anything else. Melfina drops some logic, pointing out that if those were enough, the wasteland would already be a garden. The realization hits Rena like a truck. Our MC breaks it down with a simple comparison. Just like humans get weak without food, plants need their own version of a meal to stay strong. She explains her plan to create specific nutrients to help the crops grow big. Rena is genuinely surprised by the idea of making food for vegetables. Melfina beams with a vision of a future where no one goes hungry. She wants the whole village to finally have plenty to eat. She turns it into a team effort, admitting she cannot pull this off by herself. She looks Rena in the eye and asks for her support. Rena is all in and promises her help with zero hesitation. Seeing the interaction, the nearby workers are touched by how wholesome the moment is. Rena asks if she was the source of the food, seeing the spark return to the workers. The atmosphere has shifted from survival to genuine motivation. The whole crew is actually enjoying the grind, and the positivity is catching. Melfina is taken aback by how much of an impact she has made. Marie acknowledges the shift she has brought to the settlement. Our girl deflects the praise, giving all the credit to the villagers. Cut to the next day in Ankar village. The peace is broken by someone slamming their hands down in a panic, unable to accept what they are hearing. The village chief is reaching his breaking point. He is lost in a spiral, wondering how he is even supposed to handle this. The village chief Lutz having a total meltdown. Our boy Ed steps in to save the day, asking if he can handle delivering the message. Ed breaks down the offer from the manor, letting Lutz know Melfina is down to visit or host him whenever. To Lutz, any talk with a noble is just a headache waiting to happen. Playing the noble game is basically navigating a minefield. One wrong move or a bad mood can ruin everything. So even a simple visit feels like a high-stakes gamble. Lutz finally stops panicking long enough to ask who this kid even is. Ed is glowing with pride, announcing he is officially living at the manor now. The poor chief is so tired, he just tells Ed he is free whenever. Now he is stuck spiraling over whether he should rush over now or wait for a formal invite. Ed thinks since Melfina is busy all day, any time is a good time to drop by. Lutz isn't so sure and keeps overthinking the best way to handle her schedule. It turns out our MC is a certified workaholic. If Marie didn't step in with those mandatory breaks, Melfina would probably grind 24/7 without a second thought. Lutz is overthinking it. He asks Ed for the tea on how the lady spends her time. Ed breaks it down. Her mornings are a total grind of business meetings and financial reports with Marie. Lunchtime is for the kitchen. She even finds the time to teach Ed some basic recipes. Lutz is stunned. A noble actually cooking their own meals is basically a glitch in his reality. It turns out even the scary guard Cedric is a fan of her cooking. Lutz can only sit there and process the weird vibes. The afternoon hustle is real. She manages reports from hired adventurers and personally checks on every new shipment. The mystery of the mountain strangers is finally solved. Lutz realizes those suspicious people were just her hired help, but he wishes they had just asked the locals for info. Lutz is feeling the weight of his 50 years of farming. He is taking it a bit personally that his reports might be considered unreliable. Ed drops a bomb about his conversation with the lady. The chief is stunned that the kid would even think of speaking so freely to a noble. Our MC is on another level of consideration. She does not want to waste the villagers' time on tasks she can just pay for, saving their expertise for the big stuff. The rumour mill is already working overtime in the serf settlement. It is pretty clear who is behind the new equipment and that fancy donkey. Not everyone is happy with the changes. Some of the regular villagers are getting salty that the serfs are the ones getting all the special treatment. It is a complicated situation for the chief. He prefers keeping his distance from the highborn, but seeing the serfs thrive is hard to ignore. Ed is not waiting for a formal invitation. He is dragging the chief toward the manor because Melfina is ready to get things moving. Ed has zero chill. He drags the panicking chief to the manor in a cart, ignoring everyone trying to stop him. They crash the party right as Melfina is about to eat. She stands there in her apron holding a bowl, stunned by the awkward timing while Ed just beams with pride. The awkwardness is high. Melfina tries to apologize, explaining that she only wanted to check the chief's schedule, not have him kidnapped for a surprise lunch meeting. They finally settle in at the table, but the air is still thick with social anxiety. Everyone is just trading apologies while the chief tries to find a way to disappear into his seat. Melfina decides to just roll with it and get to work. She suggests finishing their discussion now that they are all together, and her team steps up to help. The meeting is officially in session. Marie takes her spot to record the details while Cedric stands guard, finally shifting the vibe from a chaotic lunch to serious business. Time for the local intel. Melfina explains their recent surveys and asks the chief for the real story, while a nervous Lutz promises to share everything he knows. Our MC takes a look at the crop report and realizes these villagers are basically living on a diet of pure starch. It turns out a staggering 70% of their fields are dedicated to nothing but potatoes. Lutz confirms that potatoes are their ultimate staple food. When asked about livestock, he reveals they have a squad of about 70 pigs just wandering around the village. That is a wild ratio for a population of only 200 people. The idea of 70 pigs roaming free without any supervision is definitely not what she expected to hear. The chief explains that pigs are low maintenance and great for winter meat, but they are also opportunists. They have to fence off houses with babies because these animals are omnivores and will try to snack on anything. When Melfina asks about crop damage, she gets a lesson in local law. In this village, it is the farmer's job to build a fence, and if a pig breaks in to feast, the owner of the pig is legally not responsible. This whole situation gives our MC a flashback to the fence laws from her previous life. Since pioneer groups start with communal land before splitting it up, every owner is forced to be their own security. Since the land was once communal, management is now the duty of each individual owner. That includes the personal responsibility of keeping everyone else's pigs off your property. Melfina drops a bombshell by announcing that the village's free-ranging pig era is coming to an end. Lutz is visibly shaken, struggling to even ask for the reasoning behind such a massive shift in local life. The logic is simple but brutal. Keeping livestock on the streets is unsanitary, puts the village children at risk, and is basically an open buffet for forest predators. She is prioritizing health and safety over convenience. Lutz admits the theory is solid, but the reality is much more complicated. Between the cost of building materials and the new burden of providing feed, he knows the villagers will be far from thrilled about losing their low-maintenance setup. Our MC takes a moment to acknowledge the difficulty of the situation. She understands that challenging long-standing customs is always going to meet some serious resistance from the community. To her, the pigs are essentially the medieval version of a garbage truck. They handle all the household waste, and taking them off the streets means the entire village ecosystem is about to lose its primary cleaning crew. There is no backing down because the coming famine makes every scrap of manure essential. She views animal waste as the key to the fertilizer they desperately need to boost their crop yields before things get desperate. Melfina puts her money where her mouth is to ensure the plan actually happens. She commits to funding the construction of the sties and paying the villagers a holding fee for the first 3 years to make the transition painless. Melfina offers to build the sties on her own dime and even pay the villagers a holding fee for 3 years. The village chief is floored by the sudden generosity. Lutz can barely wrap his head around the idea of the Lord paying them to keep their own pigs. Our MC confirms the deal, explaining they can still slaughter or breed the animals whenever they want. She makes it clear there will be strict rules to prevent people from just freeloading on the fees. Lutz finally admits that with these conditions, the villagers are going to be thrilled. The system works like a rotating contract where the estate pays for 2 pigs over a 6-month cycle. If someone tries to hoard more or keep them longer, they are the ones who end up paying a fine. Melfina is playing the long game, betting that 3 years is enough time for everyone to forget their old messy habits. Lutz is left speechless by how far ahead she is thinking. To seal the deal, she drops a finder's keeper's rule on any pig found wandering the streets. Once the sties are done, free-ranging is officially over. Lutz finally gives in and promises to let everyone know about the new laws. He bows out, looking totally drained from the negotiation. Melfina realizes her intense business proposals might be coming off a bit strong for the poor village chief. She hopes he eventually sees she is not trying to be a monster. Moving on to the birds, she explains that while private chicken ownership stays the same, she will pay for the manure from anyone using a coop. Lutz is nearly falling out of his chair in shock. The chief quickly apologizes for his sudden outburst while trying to steady his wobbly chair. Our MC just laughs it off while Cedric keeps his usual sharp eye on the room. She lays out the logistics of using rice husks on the coop floors to collect the waste at regular intervals. It is all about maintaining a fixed size setup to keep things efficient. High quality fertilizer is the goal, since chicken manure is packed with phosphorus. It is exactly what her fields need to thrive. The clock is ticking because the rainy season is right around the corner. She wants the fertilizing finished before the heavy downpours wash everything away. To scale things up, she plans to build a ranch under her direct control for larger livestock, like cattle, once the initial costs are covered. It is all part of her bigger picture for the estate. She tasks Marie with finding craftsmen to fence off the land and build the sties. The village chief looks completely drained as he barely manages to keep up with the plan. Wrapping up the chicken coop talk, she gives Lutz a momentary hope that he can finally go home. That relief dies instantly when she mentions there is more, making the poor chief jump out of his skin. An apology follows as she promises this is definitely the final topic. Switching gears, she asks if anyone in the village keeps hunting dogs or scent hounds since she hasn't seen any around. According to Marie, wild dogs occasionally chase pigs down from the forest, but nobody in the village actually owns one. It turns out they do not even use them for hunting or keeping pests away from the crops. When massive bears come down from the forest, the villagers handle the weak ones themselves. For the stronger beasts, they have to call in a formal hunting party from the local magistrate. Curiosity gets the better of our MC as she wonders why they avoid keeping dogs entirely. Lutz keeps it real and points out that proper hunting dogs are way too expensive for a village like theirs. Dogs breed too fast and can turn into rabid, feral monsters, which is why the previous lord banned them. Melfina realizes that a pioneer group is always just one tragedy away from being completely wiped out. Feral dogs roaming the ruins are a constant reminder of the tragedies that struck this land in the past. Back at the table, our MC asks if there's anyone in the village with experience handling hunting dogs. Lutz points out there is one veteran hunter who still goes out with his family. Melfina immediately requests a meeting with him for the afternoon and makes sure the chief joins in. The chief looks completely drained as the workday just keeps dragging on. A quick transition shows the sun high over the estate later that afternoon. A rugged veteran named Godot makes his entrance to hear the proposal. Melfina welcomes him with open arms, ready to get down to business. She asks if he can raise and train a new hunting dog specifically for her. Godot keeps it real and says he simply cannot afford the high cost of a dog. Lutz tells him to actually listen to the full proposal before jumping to conclusions. Godot counters that a hunting dog is a significant investment that only pays off for a few years. Our MC lays out her proposal, offering to buy a puppy and pay Godot a boarding fee to train it. She even wants him to handle any future litters that might come along. She suggests a deal where Godot gives her just 10% of his hunting haul once the dog is ready. The veteran hunter is completely stunned, wondering how such a generous offer actually benefits her. Melfina explains her plan to ban free-range livestock to prevent them from becoming easy targets for wild animals. Since the animals will be grouped together, they will need serious protection. The dogs will serve as the village defense force against predators and crop-raiding pests. She emphasizes that they need to be trained perfectly to obey and protect. Godot clenches his fist in silence, clearly touched by the opportunity. This deal means he can finally live and work with dogs again after the long ban. Just as the chief is about to wrap things up, Melfina drops one more request. She wants the villagers to start planting pumpkins in every single empty field. Lutz is a bit skeptical, but Melfina simply claims she just really loves pumpkins. The chief points out they already have enough to feed her, suggesting he knows there is a bigger plan in play. Melfina knows the chief is nervous about the massive changes she is suggesting. Asking them to cut back on their main crops is basically asking them to gamble with their lives. She makes them an offer they cannot refuse, promising to buy every single pumpkin they grow in place of the potatoes. Lutz is finally on board, knowing this financial safety net will win over the rest of the village. Our girl is already planning her next move with a smug little smirk. She is calling this the pumpkin money strategy, a clever way to keep everyone fed while they transition their agriculture. With the deal struck, Melfina officially puts the responsibility in the chief's hands. She takes a moment to breathe once they are gone, knowing that even a small shift in their planting habits is a huge win for the future. Looking back on her past life, she knows this game world is headed for a major disease outbreak. If she wants to save these people, she has to minimize the damage before the scenario gets out of control. The sound of footsteps breaks her train of thought as Marie approaches, now officially her secretary instead of just a maid. Seeing her here is proof enough that the original game's tragic script can definitely be rewritten. The village boys catch her on the way out, and she lets them know she will be back before the sun goes down. Ed is already hyped to get dinner ready, showing just how much the vibe at the estate has improved. The village boys are already putting their new skills to use and impressing the local workers. Melfina watches with a soft smile, realizing just how many unique souls actually live in this world. In the original game, most of these people were just background noise with zero depth. They were never meant to be anything more than nameless side characters in a scripted world. Melfina keeps it simple with a friendly hello, leaving the commoners stunned. It is rare for a noble to even acknowledge them, but she knows every single person here has a story worth telling. One of them cannot help but ask why a high-ranking noble is hitching a ride in a dusty old cart. In the game world, the original Melfina would never have been caught dead doing something so low class. The original character only saw the people as tax revenue and data points on a spreadsheet. She would fix the environment to keep the money flowing, but she never actually cared about the souls behind the numbers. The kids are already heading back, proudly announcing they finished prepping the fields further out. Melfina is genuinely impressed by their hustle, especially since they are actually following her new rules about taking breaks. Rena cannot hide her excitement, looking at the empty land and dreaming of all the food that is going to grow there. Melfina gives her a gentle nod, promising that their hard work is definitely going to pay off. Rena gets dragged away by her brother to avoid getting in trouble for playing on the job. Seeing them like this makes Melfina realize her sense of purpose is shifting towards something much bigger. A silent vow takes root as she realizes she can never let these people go hungry again. Even if her resolve feels immature, she is ready to push through her limits to fix this broken world. The weight of her title finally sinks in as she looks out over the land she now commands. This isn't just a game anymore, and she is ready to do whatever it takes to protect her people as their true lord. 3.5 months fly by as summer finally hits the village. Between building barns and chicken coops, the local construction rush is in full swing. Melfina is catching a vibe in her new straw hat. Her long shot actually paid off, and the scale of the success is hitting her all at once. Marie is not buying the humble act and credits the success to her lady's master plan. Melfina tries to play it cool, though the results speak for themselves. Cedric keeps a watchful eye as the land clearing project finally picks up speed. Skeptical farmers from the village are even joining in now, proving the momentum is real. A wagon arrives to help transport the new helpers into the field. The project is scaling up so fast they have to split the settlement into 2 separate zones. It now takes 4 hours to cross the fields, making the new drying sheds a top priority. Marie is already stressing over having too much food, which is a pretty great problem to have. They are throwing up simple huts just to keep the harvest from overflowing. The group stands amidst the golden fields, realizing just how wild this harvest really is. For a bunch of amateurs and first-timers, they have managed to pull off something legendary. This success is anything but normal. Our girl is out in the fields, checking the harvest and noting that while the corn is a bit slim, it is packed solid. She realizes that raising crops as an amateur is usually a disaster, but her knowledge is finally paying off. This very region was the stage for the original game's hard mode. In that story, the protagonist used these specific crops to save the displaced people from total disaster. Melfina finally lets out a sigh of relief. She was low-key stressed that a bumper crop like this was something only a saint could pull off, but the results are right in front of her. There is no time to chill though, so she starts giving out the next round of orders. She tells Marie to have the workers use more fertilizer and start planting beans to secure some solid protein for the winter. They are going to need way more storage barrels if they want to sell the surplus in town. Marie is already one step ahead, agreeing that they need to prep for the upcoming sales. The good vibes vanish instantly when Marie drops some heavy news about potato fields withering across the region. Food shortages are already hitting the nearby towns, and it looks like the problem is spreading toward the capital. Melfina goes quiet as the grim reality sets in. The tragic game scenario she was worried about is officially starting to play out exactly as planned. Rising food prices are already starting to haunt the commoners, even if their potato stash is holding up for now. Melfina keeps her head in the game and asks about the status of the wheat fields. The wheat report comes back normal, leaving them in wait and see mode for now. Still, the underlying distortion of this world is starting to weigh heavy on our girl. It is a bizarre mix of brutal reality and a world where game logic actually works perfectly, as long as she sticks to the script. The lack of consistency in this world is clearly starting to get to her. Marie senses the tension and asks if she is feeling all right. Melfina plays it cool, claiming it is just harvest nerves. Marie agrees that shifting the crop focus from potatoes to pumpkins was definitely a big brain move for the season. Unnatural vibes or not, she is not losing focus. Her next moves are already locked in. The mission stays the same. She is going to stack her assets and secure her future so she can thrive even after the story tries to cast her out. Melfina keeps the agricultural grind going, giving out detailed orders about composting corn stalks before winter hits. Marie is right on it, promising to get the word out to the rest of the crew. Looking at the fields, she realizes that even if she has to bounce one day, the skills she taught these people are permanent. It is her way of leaving a legacy that actually matters. Her goal is simple. She wants Marie and every single person in these settlements to find genuine happiness. Beyond just surviving, she hopes for a future where nobody in the entire region ever has to worry about an empty stomach again. Cut to the capital, where the news is grim. Duke Alexis looks over reports of potato fields being wiped out across the entire kingdom. Inside the palace, the blame game is already starting. The temple and the church are just pointing fingers at each other instead of fixing the food crisis. The Duke tosses his reports aside and calls both groups useless, because these two organizations have been beefing for ages. They are letting the kingdom starve while they argue over semantics. Bureaucracy is killing the kingdom before the famine even starts. The temple and the church are too busy arguing over whose job it is to fix a crop disease while the people rot. Auguste is hitting his limit. He knows they are burning through their food reserves, and having the religious leaders pass the buck is the last thing they need. The reality check is brutal. Winter is coming, the storage is empty, and there is no plan to keep the commoners from starving. Starvation is already picking off the poor. It is not enough to open the granaries yet, but the next harvest is already looking like a total disaster. Desperate times are about to lead to desperate measures. Augusta knows a starving man will take whatever he can find, but it is already too late to plant anything else. The crop blight hit way too fast for anyone to react. With the potatoes gone, the only move left is to slash taxes and hope the rationing holds. The backup plan is even darker. If things go south, the fortress cities will have to lock their gates for months, and the guards are going to be on the front lines of a nightmare. When you hit rock bottom, there's only one direction left to look. Orderland is a cold, unforgiving territory where poor management leads to immediate disaster. This place is an endless headache for whoever has to run it. Wheat yields are staying steady, which just highlights the irony of the situation. Alexis knows the capital nobles eating white bread are disconnected, but he admits his own house is just as guilty. Central royalty only pays attention when the tax revenue starts to dry up. Even then, nobody is actually trying to solve the real crisis at the root. The ducal stores will eventually have to be opened to save the population. The timing has to be perfect, or the resources will be wasted. 5 years on the throne has taught him exactly why his father was always so sour. Carrying the weight of an entire duchy is exhausting work. Despite the chaos spreading everywhere else, the latest reports show a weird silence. Not a single petition has come in from the northern regions. Back at the capital, the Duke gets a briefing about the weird silence coming from the north. Since that region is so remote, it might have dodged the blight, but the lack of reports is still suspicious. Alexis remembers Melfina is still up there with Marie. Cedric used to send regular updates about giving the local village chief a hard time, but lately it has been total radio silence. He thinks back to Marie's resignation letter from 3 months ago. He told her she could return whenever she wanted, but he has not heard a single word from her since she left for the frontier. The realization starts to sink in. In the middle of a national crisis, receiving zero information is the worst possible sign. Our boy is not taking any chances and orders a scout to head for Enkar village immediately. He knows he technically handed the title over to his wife, but the north is still his responsibility. He cannot just sit back while an inexperienced lady potentially ruins the entire domain. If Melfina does not know how to handle the crisis, the situation could be a disaster. A cheerful young noble steps up and offers to dash over on horseback. He is actually looking forward to the mission since he has not seen his cousin in ages. 2 days after leaving the capital, the ride is already taking its toll. Our boy finally spots the outskirts of a town on the horizon. The closer he gets to the north, the worse things look. Starving people are mere shadows of themselves, proving just how desperate the relief effort has become. He can only imagine the weight on Duke Alexis right now. This crisis is hitting everyone, from the high throne to the lowest dirt road. Just as he enters a village, a small, dirty hand reaches out. A little girl pleads for anything he can spare, her eyes hollow from hunger. He hands her a piece of food with a stern warning to eat it immediately before someone else steals it. He does not stick around for thanks, riding off as she greedily munches down her only meal. Approaching the borders of Enkar, the heavy mood finally catches up to him. He lets out a deep sigh, feeling the crushing weight of the devastation he has seen so far. Wait, something is different here. The air is clear, the rot is gone, and the villagers actually look healthy. Even the locals are whispering about how the blight seems to have skipped their fields. The locals confirm the potatoes are gone, but August notices something weird. Nobody here looks like they are starving, so he asks what their secret food source is. A girl mentions that the village chief already sent a report to the steward about it. It turns out a village further north is actually hiring people right now. They even pay the workers in food. He realizes they're talking about Enkar village and prepares to investigate. The locals mention a new steward was recently appointed who even gives out bonuses for hard work. Without that extra support, this entire village would have been cooked. He takes it all in, looking more serious than before. He realizes there's a lot more going on in the north than the Duke knows. Heading out, his mind is racing with questions. Recruiting outsiders and paying them in food during a national famine is completely unheard of. With the potato harvest gone, the only logical answer is that Enkar is dipping into their private reserves. Instead of hoarding the wheat and beans, they're actually feeding the masses. Elsewhere, a map shows how Enkar sits at the edge of the territory. While a small village might pull this off for a minute, giving away resources to neighbours is a dangerous gamble that won't last. August is worried that if the locals revolt over food shortages, the reputation of Enkar is going down with them. The scene shifts to the Enkar region the very next day. As he arrives, he is shocked to see lush crops instead of the rot he has seen everywhere else. He calls out to the workers, announcing he is part of the Duke inspection team. A villager named Fritz steps up to greet him. August is confused when he hears they are planting beans right after a wheat harvest. He tries to school them on crop rotation, warning that they are going to ruin the land if they do not let it rest. Fritz just tells him they are following the Lord's orders. August can only sigh, convinced Melfina is making a massive tactical blunder. He asks for directions to the manor, but Fritz mentions the Lord is out inspecting the eastern fields today. August heads that way, probably expecting to find a total disaster. He spots a familiar face and shouts out to Cedric. He is genuinely surprised to see the former commander looking so much better than he did back at the capital. Melfina tilts her head, asking Cedric who the newcomer is. The guy gives a polite bow, introducing himself as August von Carlyle. Sent by the Duke, Cedric tries to manage the intro, but the interaction is already rolling. Staying classy, Melfina introduces herself and immediately picks up on the name. She asks if this dude is actually related to her guard. August admits they are cousins on his mother's side. Seeing right through him, Melfina asks if he just used the inspection as an excuse to see his family on her territory. Our boy quickly denies being that sentimental. Though he admits he was worried about his cousin getting shipped off to a backwater post, Cedric just stands there looking completely done with the conversation. Switching gears, August brings up the nationwide potato blight. He notes that the disaster is spreading fast, especially as you move further north. Melfina doesn't buy the formal concern for a second. She bluntly guesses the Duke just sent him to make sure a rookie noble didn't accidentally run the place into the ground. August stammers through a denial while Melfina just shrugs it off as a reasonable worry. She invites him to tag along and see the lush fields for himself. August is losing his mind seeing Melfina treat commoners like friends. He asks Cedric if this is even legal, but his cousin does not seem to care at all. Cedric just gives a chill response. August is stuck wondering what happened to the strict, uptight commander he used to know. This dude pivots to business. He mentions the weird wheat and bean rotation he saw, and Melfina admits she would have preferred turnips if they had more livestock. August goes into full panic mode. He tells her she needs to stop immediately because farming without letting the soil rest is basically killing the land. Melfina asks if he knows why land needs rest, and August jumps at the chance to explain how wheat drains all the nutrients. He warns that overworking the soil will just lead to a dead wasteland. Melfina hits him with the ultimate counter. She asks if those bean fields he saw actually looked like they were struggling. and August has to admit they were thriving. She drops some real agricultural knowledge. The real problem is not the wheat itself, but how the leftover stalks use up nutrients as they break down in the dirt. August is completely floored by the agricultural logic. Melfina explains that by clearing wheat leftovers and fertilizing right away, the soil stays ready for the next round. August admits he has never heard of such a thing, but Melfina just hits him with the truth. He is a knight, not a farmer, so it is only natural he is in the dark. Childhood memories of endless studying flash through his mind. Our girl keeps the lecture going, suggesting turnips or legumes as the perfect follow-up. Marie tries to step in before Melfina leaks any more trade secrets. Melfina apologizes for her secretary being a bit of a hardhead. August just brushes it off, still trying to wrap his brain around everything he just heard. Marie is not backing down, insisting that this kind of high-level intel should come with proper compensation. Melfina just smiles and tells her there is absolutely nothing to hide. August realizes that overturning the 3-year fallow rule would be a total revolution in production. This level of insight is deeply impressive, making him credit the Crawford family for her education. Melfina just gives him a knowing smile. Knowing more than most is just part of the job description for a girl with 2 lives worth of memories. The carriage keeps rolling as August asks where they are headed next. Melfina is on a mission to check the new surf settlement fields while the harvest is in full swing. August is still trying to figure out her strategy, wondering if all those extra village workers are just there to clear out the forest. Our girl admits she might have expanded the fields a bit too fast, but Marie is not having it. She reminds everyone that because of Melfina, nobody in Enkar is going hungry. August is shook that even the resident Ice King Cedric is joining the vibes. Cedric just gets flustered and tells everyone to pipe down while August stays impressed by her generous food portions. They pull up to a massive field that August does not even recognize. Melfina drops the name of her secret weapon. It is corn. August knows corn is usually just animal feed, but he can tell she's got a much bigger plan in mind. She breaks it down like a true pro, pointing out that corn is the ultimate starter crop for fresh land. It yields big handles rotation like a champ and keeps both people and animals fed. August is fully skeptical about the corn mountain. He points out that nobody eats this stuff unless they are starving and wonders if they are just going to drown in the surplus. Melfina doesn't miss a beat. She explains that corn is the ultimate soil prep, basically a pioneer crop until the land is ready for wheat. Melfina keeps the momentum going by inviting August to stay for lunch, promising him a taste of their local corn dishes. He is caught off guard by the offer, questioning if a high-ranking noble like her really puts that stuff on her plate. She puts a finger to her lips with a smirk, telling him that hating on corn is just a lack of culinary vision. Nid steps in to welcome her, and August decides he is down for the food trial. Time for a status report. Melfina checks in with Nid on the harvest, and he confirms everything is moving according to the master plan. The team hits a logistical snag. They are running out of barrels and crates, so they start brainstorming a better supply line for storage containers. Expansion is getting tricky because of the distance. Nid points out that even with more workers, the travel time to the further fields is a major buzzkill. Our girl is cooking up a logistics hack. She wants a relay system where workers pass food further along and pick up recruits on the way back. She knows trust is earned, so she is down to pay in advance. Time to check with the labor boss to see if the plan is actually viable. Melfina splits the party and tells Cedric to give August the grand tour. Marie is already 5 steps ahead, clutching the paperwork and volunteering to join them. August hits Cedric with a side-eye, asking if he is totally under the thumb of the Enkar ladies. Cedric shuts it down immediately, telling him to stop being stupid. Marie leads the way, even though she would rather stay with her boss. She starts dropping hard data questions to see if August can handle the scale of their harvest. Looking at a corn ocean, August is losing it. He cannot believe they carved this much land out of a forest in just 1 year. Marie confirms the area used to be a total wasteland unfit for anything. August is shook, wondering how they got such a rich harvest out of garbage soil. Marie gives all the credit to Melfina, but August is looking for cold, hard facts. He presses for specifics, but she stays firm on her story. August pulls out a map from the Adventurers Guild to distract her. Marie sees right through the move, noting that he is dodging her questions about the corn yields. Back at the main camp, Melfina welcomes the duo with a smile. Marie gives a quick status report, confirming she finished showing him the sheds and the fields. August admits he is impressed by the scale of the new fields. Melfina stays humble, insisting that the progress is all thanks to the workers' grind. The local workers are actually complaining that the days are not long enough to finish the harvest. Melfina is stunned by their energy and tells them to take it easy. Watching the crew enjoy the harvest has August in a state of shock. He has never seen people actually find clearing land and farming to be rewarding. A painful flashback of a starving girl hits him hard. Looking at the lively community Melfina built, he wishes that kid could have seen this place too. Fritz is singing Melfina's praises, shocked that a noble would treat commoners with this much respect. He says her achievements are next level. It's not just talk either. She's hooking them up with tools and wagons, and the village kids adore her. Fritz bows deep, thanking the knight for staying. He admits that leaving the fancy life at the capital must have been a huge sacrifice for Melfina. August takes a moment to think about the life she left behind. He tells Fritz to tell her himself, but the guy says she's way too humble to accept the praise. Lost in his thoughts, August gets a reality check from Cedric. The knight is already mounted up and warns him they're leaving him behind. Cedric wants to know how long he plans on staying. August just smiles and tells him not to be so cold. He's heading back tomorrow. With the capital in chaos, he knows he can't hide out in the north forever. Cedric checks in on the Duke's situation. August keeps it real, admitting the timing of this famine right before winter is the worst-case scenario. Feeding soldiers for the Pluna campaign is the priority, but August is starting to think they might have to sit this war out. August reminds Cedric that his primary job is still protecting Melfina while she is here. He worries this place doesn't have the luxury facilities for a noble woman to survive a harsh winter comfortably. Still looking at the thriving crops, he has to admit, Melfina has done an incredible job with the land. Cedric asks if he's going to beg for food aid, but August decides he needs to clear it with the Duke first. Cut to 4 days later at the Orderland estate. August is back and ready to lay out the facts for the boss. Back at the capital, August is geeking out over the elite corn dishes he found in Enkar. He describes a local specialty where they grind corn into flour to make stuffed flatbread. Pivoting back to the mission, he tells the Duke that Enkar is thriving, with fields stretching to the horizon. The Duke isn't buying the hype and asks if his scout just dreamed the whole thing. Taming the forest usually takes years of back-breaking labor with very little to show for it. Seeing results this quickly is unheard of, even for a successful village. To the Duke, planting anything but wheat in new fields is a rookie move. Since wheat is basically the currency of the land, he's left wondering what exactly his wife is thinking. If Enkar really has a surplus, it could be enough to keep the damage in the north to a minimum. It wouldn't save everyone, but it is a start though. The Duke knows there is a catch. August drops a truth bomb about the giant elephant in the room. He warns the Duke that Melfina likely holds a major personal grudge against him. He explains that publicly announcing he would never show her affection was basically like picking a fight. The Duke asks for clarification, but August insists that is exactly how social politics work. August lays it out straight for the boss. If everyone knows the Duke hates his wife, she has zero social power. She's just one bad rumor away from being the laughingstock of the capital. The Duke claims he is respecting her position, but August is not having it. He tells his cousin he is a total disaster when it comes to women. Dropping a line about never loving or touching her is beyond crazy. August points out how dangerous that neglect actually was. A less resilient girl might have ended it all the moment she was abandoned on her wedding night. The Duke just stares back in silence as the weight of his actions hits. Treating her that badly would basically be declaring war on her family. Still, the logic remains that Enkar was historically his land. Since the Duke House funded the original settlers, he thinks the food should be shared. Social politics are a nightmare because Melfina is now the official lord of her region. She is an independent ruler with her own rights. Being a duke does not give him the legal authority to just snatch her harvest because his own lands are failing. Here is the catch. The fields the Duke family funded are still growing the same failing wheat and potatoes. Meanwhile, the corn belongs strictly to Melfina because she opened those fields herself. The Duke can't believe she did all this in just a few months. August confirms the paperwork is ironclad. With Marie and Cedric backing the records, there is zero room for mistakes. The Duke is stuck between a rock and a hard place. He knows Melfina has the food he needs, but her paperwork is so clean he cannot find any legal excuse to just seize it. August suggests the only play left on the board. He tells the Duke to swallow his pride, treat Melfina like an actual ruler, and just offer to buy the crops. It is going to cost them a fortune, especially since Melfina knows exactly how desperate the capital is right now. Still, August argues that paying her price is better than watching their own food reserves hit zero. August is actually impressed by how she turned a wasteland into a gold mine in just a few months. He admits her agricultural skill is no fluke and tells the Duke he needs to respect her talent if he wants a deal. There is a good chance she will slap a spite tax on the final bill for everything he has put her through. That is just business as usual in the world of noble domains, and they have to be ready to pay up. August even suggests buying her corn recipes, since they would probably be a massive hit in the capital city bars. The Duke realizes he is completely out of options and agrees to the plan. When the suggestion comes up to send a messenger to start the talks, the Duke slams his desk and shuts it down. He is not sending an envoy. He is going to see his wife and handle this negotiation himself. Alexis isn't taking someone else's word for it anymore. He needs to see this legendary harvest with his own eyes before he believes the hype. He's even ready to dump his entire workload on poor Rufus, just to get a taste of Melfina's cooking. August understands that the non-stop stream of depressing news is crushing his spirit. Seeing something positive for once might be the only way to save his sanity. Besides, visiting his wife is the ultimate power move. A little road trip is exactly what this marriage needs. 5 days later, the Duke finally arrives in the Enkar region. He looks intense, clearly ready to see if the rumors about this place are actually true. The view is absolutely unreal compared to the starvation and rot they saw on the journey. These massive cornfields are thriving, and it is way more impressive than any of the reports described. Seeing the contrast with the rest of the dying kingdom is a massive reality check for the whole squad. He stares at the healthy crops with a look of pure shock. In a world full of failing harvests, seeing something this beautiful feels like a total miracle. August is not doing the subtle noble thing and starts shouting into the fields. He is looking for the lady of the house, and he is making sure everyone hears him. Nid pops up with a heavy load of corn and treats August like he is just some regular guy. Our scout gets a bit salty that the greeting isn't more hyped, but Nid just shrugs it off and tells him where to find Malfina. The energy here is on another level, with villagers actually smiling while they work. August is already thinking about his stomach, hyped for whatever new corn recipe Marie is testing out today. The Duke is completely floored by how lively and motivated the commoners are. He has never seen peasants with this much spirit before, and it is clear this place is built different. August is playing tour guide, mentioning how Malfina is always in the dirt with her crops. Looks like they finally have a chance for a face-to-face today. Someone is shocked that a peasant used the lady's name, but August explains she ditched the titles. She wants everyone to call her Malfina, which is unheard of for a noble. Our boy is starting to realize his wife is built different. She left his house and built a whole agricultural powerhouse in just 4 months. He remembers how strange it was when she first asked for this land. She comes from a wealthy family in the south, but she chose to struggle in the frozen north instead. It was a strategic deal to bridge the gap between the fertile south and the military powerhouse of the north. One had the food and the other had the army. For him, this marriage was just a signature on a contract that he almost completely forgot about. He never thought he needed a partner, so he just left her to herself. He thought a city girl would be a nightmare to manage, so he planned to keep her sheltered and powerless. Now he is staring at her massive success and wondering who he actually married. Malfina was just trying to have a productive day when the uninvited guest squad rolled up to her front door. Duke Alexis arrived with his entourage, looking way too official for a casual drop-in. She called out August for returning only 5 days after leaving. The man claimed he couldn't stop thinking about her cooking, but she knew he just timed it perfectly for lunch. The Duke mentioned he had been riding since sunrise and was running on empty. Malfina offered to feed the group, and August was more than happy to accept the invite. August pushed his luck by asking for 3 full servings while complaining about the lack of local restaurants. Malfina teased that maybe it was time to start charging them for their meals. August kept the energy high while Cedric looked like he was one bad joke away from a mental breakdown. Malfina figured that if she averaged their personalities out, she might actually have one normal person to talk to. Not wanting anyone to go hungry, she asked Marie to tell the kitchen to double up on the portions. Marie headed off immediately to handle the sudden guest list. Marie leaned in to ask about the brooding main character standing in the courtyard. Malfina looked over at the Duke, who was doing his best to look intimidating while waiting for his food. Malfina is taking shots, asking if the Duke's knights really have nothing better to do than loiter around. August looks completely crushed, wondering if she really managed to forget his face already. She isn't about to drop her morning chores for an uninvited guest. After telling them to find something to do until lunch, she starts walking away, forcing Alexis to call her name just to stop her. It catches her off guard how casual the Duke's men are being lately. She realizes they have completely dropped the formalities and started calling her by her actual name. August points out that as her husband, he actually has every right to be that informal. Malfina has to take a second to remind herself she even got married 4 months ago, while Alexis admits the fact completely slipped his mind too. She laughs it off, admitting she can be a bit blunt sometimes. It is definitely a weird situation, being legally bound to a guy she barely even knows. Alexis showing up wasn't exactly part of her plans, but she knew it was bound to happen eventually. Once August got a look at her booming agriculture, an official visit from the Duke was inevitable. It finally clicks what August meant by a presentation. He is clearly already scheming on how to turn this entire surprise visit into a win for himself. Malfina keeps things practical and tells the knights that the dining room is a tight fit, so most of them are taking their meal in the courtyard. August is totally down for it, claiming the weather is way too good to stay inside anyway. August is impressed that she saw right through him, but Malfina is all about efficiency and decides to just show them the kitchen. She casually mentions they don't even bother with food tasters out here, letting their trust do the talking. The Duke gets surprisingly serious, wondering if it's actually fine for her to be cooking right in front of them. Malfina stops in her tracks, clearly not getting why he's making such a big deal out of it. It clicks for her that in this era, recipes are basically guarded trade secrets that cooks treat like personal gold. Most pros would never let an outsider see their techniques, especially not a high-ranking noble. Malfina isn't interested in gatekeeping and wants this flatbread recipe to go viral as a local staple. She calls for Marie and Eli to get the prep work moving before the guests lose their appetite. The kitchen transforms into a well-oiled machine as Marie and Eli jump straight into their tasks, while they handle the heavy lifting with the meat and veggies. Our girl gets her hands dirty and takes charge of the dough herself. August is blown away by how fast the team is moving through the prep. Malfina gives all the credit to Eli, noting that hiring someone with her skills from the village was a total game changer for the household. Our MC explains that Eli is a legit hidden gem, having grown up in a merchant family with solid reading and management skills. She is way overqualified for a simple village hire. Since the manor is short-handed, having someone like Eli around is a lifesaver. Malfina notices Auguste hanging around and asks if he wants to actually help out instead of being a spectator. Knowing how much knights can pack away, they are going to need way more than a small batch of dough. She tells him to grab an apron and hit the sink before he touches anything. Auguste heads to the sink but gets hit with culture shock when he sees the local soap. It is nothing like the luxury bars from the south, but Marie hits him with the silent treatment. Marie tells him to quit stalling and get back to work before Malfina loses her patience. He eventually makes it back to the table and spots some yellow powder, correctly guessing it is cornmeal. The process is straightforward, involving drying the corn for 2 weeks before stripping the kernels and grinding them down. Most commoners think corn is for the animals, so the play is to hide its original form so they don't get the ick. Malfina breaks down the simple prep of water, salt and oil before getting to work on the dough. Cedric checks in to see where to set things down while she keeps the momentum going. Auguste spots a specialized tool and asks what he is looking at. Malfina explains it is a custom flatbread press she had a silversmith whip up to speed up the process. She demonstrates the gear, dropping a dough ball in and giving it a firm press. This dude is impressed by how effortlessly it turns out a perfect disc every time. Auguste gets curious about why the dough needs to chill for a bit. Resting lets the moisture settle so the bread doesn't crack and ruin the texture. Time to turn up the heat as Marie brings over the prepped discs for the final stage. Malfina warns that timing is everything since overcooking leads to a rock-hard mess. Auguste wants in on the action and asks for a turn with the press. Our girl lets him take the lead and even offers to let him handle the stove, making sure he watches his fingers as he gets started. He actually has a natural touch with the pan, flipping the bread like a pro. Malfina is surprised by his skills and wonders if he has spent some secret time in a kitchen before. Auguste brags about his squire days, saying he picked up cooking while looking after the knights. Malfina is just taking it all in. Time to load up the fillings. They are using grilled meat and veggies, and the chicken smells like it has some serious secret seasoning. Our girl reveals the secret blend of garlic, salt, and chili before asking Marie to bring the sauce for the final touch. Auguste A is loving the vibe and even asks for a job after he retires. Malfina is just low-key thinking about how he is geeking out over a basic taco. He gets a quick reality check with a kick to the leg when he tries to flirt. Malfina suggests he just open a restaurant in the capital with her backing instead. Back at the main table, the atmosphere is freezing cold as Duke Alexis greets Marie. It has been a minute since they last saw each other. Malfina watches the awkward reunion, noting how distant these two half-siblings really are. The Duke stays silent and takes his first bite of the taco. Marie bows deeply to the Duke, apologizing for taking so long to greet him properly. She makes it clear she is doing great these days and credits her new life for the change. The Duke and his guest dive into the tacos. He is forced to admit they are actually good, while Fritz is shocked that corn-based bread can have this much flavor. Commoners won't mind using their hands for a meal this filling. It is easy to heat and hygienic, making it a perfect fit for military rations. Malfina breaks down the ingredients, from the fresh veggies to the steamed chicken. The Duke agrees that the endless variations are a major plus for the dish. He realizes that the sauce is the real secret that takes the dish to the next level. Malfina just listens as he finishes his bite and contemplates the flavor. She notes that the bread stands on its own with just some salt, but castle chefs could have a field day with it. The possibilities for new sauce ideas are endless. The spicy, tangy sauce is the perfect match for the corn flatbread. Adding the white sauce helps mellow out the heat and balance everything perfectly. Auguste is already picturing these tacos being served with cold ale in every bar. Malfina is just glad her knowledge of basic condiments is actually useful here. The Duke finally breaks his silence and addresses her directly. He doesn't waste time and gets straight to business. The Duke wants to buy the recipe, including the secret sauce for his military rations. Malfina stays composed while he makes his offer. She isn't about to get lowballed. Malfina reminds him that her workers are already at their limit, and this land is still being developed. If he wants the goods, he's going to have to make it worth her while. The Duke tells her to name her terms, but he wasn't ready for the response. Malfina drops a bombshell, demanding 1 sack of wheat for every sack of corn. The room freezes at her aggressive trade offer. Malfina doesn't flinch as she demands a 1-to-1 trade of corn for wheat. Alexis is stressed. He reminds her that corn is basically animal feed, so her price is beyond exorbitant. In this world, wheat is a form of currency that can pay for anything from labor to brewery supplies. The Duke isn't convinced and makes it clear he doesn't agree with her valuation. Malfina starts listing the receipts. She poured her own money into tools, carriages, and even the dogs guarding the livestock. She points out that this level of development takes a huge amount of capital, and she even covers the staff payroll, since her personal wealth disappears if they ever break up. She is blowing the budget while she still has the right to. Melfina notes that corn is already the local staple diet. Since the potato harvest failed, this grain is the only thing keeping the village alive. Corn is tough enough for continuous planting, giving them a much-needed edge. She still keeps it real, admitting the next harvest might not be as lucky as this one. The Duke goes quiet. He knows famine turns hearts to stone and breeds nothing but anxiety over the next meal. Our girl sticks to her guns about a lord's duty to protect their people. Even with the Duke's heavy silence, she's putting the pressure on until he understands her demands. In her head, she admits Alexis actually cares for his subjects in his own way. If she weren't currently living as his neglected wife, she might actually respect the guy. She remembers a path in the game where Alexis opened his personal granaries to feed the public. In this world, a lord's wheat store is basically his bank account, and an empty silo means zero respect. Risking his entire reputation as a leader was a huge gamble, but he did it anyway. He chose to open those doors and save his people. Our girl starts wondering if her original family ever sent help in the game's timeline. Without her corn, her value to the Duke would have been zero, but she decides it is not worth stressing over now. The Duke finally caves and agrees to pay the market price. He has one condition of his own though, and Melfina is all ears. He wants a 5-year lock-in on corn production and a fixed price starting today. The guys in the back are sweating just looking at the scale of this deal. Melfina asks if he is actually sure about this. She points out the crop blight might just disappear by next year, making his long-term contract a waste. The Duke isn't playing around. He explains the blight is so bad that even if a cure dropped tomorrow, it would take years to fix every field on the continent. Melfina realizes his fears are spot on. She remembers the potato famine from her past life lasted 4 years and claimed over 1 million lives, which is why she was so worried in the first place. She proposes a sliding scale, where the price drops every year until it hits 50% of the current rate. As for the amount they buy, she suggests they just handle that on a case-by-case basis. Alexis isn't buying the charity. He asks why she's conceding so much on a deal that clearly favors him. Melfina keeps her expression neutral, already knowing how this story ends. She knows the game clock is ticking. Once Saintess Maria descends next spring to save the land, a high-priced corn contract will become a heavy anchor for anyone holding it. The conversation shifts to the surrounding villages. Once the other lords see corn surviving the blight while their crops rot, they'll all flood the market with it. Alexis admits she's right. Corn is basically a cheat code compared to wheat. It grows in 3 months and resists disease, while traditional wheat takes 8 months of careful labor. Alexis listens intently to the breakdown. The Duke finally catches the vibe. He asks if the supply from outside the region is going to explode next year, and she confirms it with a simple yes. Ankar has the edge right now because the planting season is closing, but by next summer, that advantage is going to evaporate as the rest of the world catches up. The real crash hits when the Saintess arrives. Potatoes will reclaim their spot as the staple food, and corn value will tank harder than a burst economic bubble. Melfina realizes that selling essentially free corn for the price of wheat would be a PR nightmare. If she acts like a greedy lord during a famine, her reputation will be trashed forever. Alexis takes the bait and thanks her for her kindness. He thinks she is being a saint by dropping the price. She shuts that down immediately, explaining it is strictly business. Since Ankar is underdeveloped, she needs the Duke to handle all the logistics and trade for them. Alexis is low-key impressed and calls her a fair person. He believes it is only natural to give back when the deal is this good. Melfina hits him with a customer service smile and says she is honored. But internally, she is laughing. This has nothing to do with being noble. Even at half price, corn is a steep price compared to its future value. Alexis has no idea he just signed a contract with the devil, and the realization will hit him hard in 2 years. The Duke and his men finally head out, and Melfina isn't shedding a single tear. She stands with her staff, watching the horses fade into the distance without a hint of regret. A few days pass, and the results of the deal finally land on the table. A pile of gold coins sits waiting, marking the first major payday for the territory. Melfina is practically glowing, humming to herself as she basks in the sight of her new fortune. August catches her in the moment and points out that she is looking more cheerful than ever. Staring down the gold, she claims this is her happiest moment since Marie agreed to be her secretary. Marie just keeps it professional, reminding her that the hiring happened pretty recently. The haul is substantial, reaching 3,000 gold coins or roughly 600 million yen. This is just the down payment, with the real profits expected to climb as the season continues. Her private investment is officially in the black, and the stability of the deal means she is set for the next few years. Even if market prices dip later, the current win is enough to keep her smiling. Instead of hoarding the wealth, she immediately starts planning how to pour it back into the village. August watches as she lists off winter supplies, better housing, and new farming gear for everyone. August asks if she is running low on money, but she has it all under control. Between her private funds and dowry dividends, she is doing just fine. Managing a territory on personal savings is not healthy, so she is focused on making the land profitable. August is stressed because he realizes she is not getting the massive budget she is entitled to. One simple admission that she has never heard of a budget is enough to break the boys. They are officially blue-screened. She figures the budget is just sitting in a capital mansion somewhere. Since she is not acting as a duchess in the city, she does not think she has a right to that money. August is yelling that she is totally entitled to the cash, but she is not interested. Her only concern is the settlement money she gets after the divorce. Her dowry rights will revert to her family after the split. Since they basically kicked her out, she knows they are not looking forward to her return anyway. This gold is the literal light at the end of the tunnel for her. The bigger the pile, the brighter her post-divorce future looks. Auguste's companion notices the clear tension, and the noble cousin does not even try to hide his disdain for the Duke. He rants about there being nothing to like until Melfina calls him over to pivot to a private chat with Eli. While walking through the manor, she comments on the incredible effort the serfs have put into the Enkar region. She decides that their hard work deserves more than just a simple thank you. Our MC casually drops a massive bombshell, announcing that she is releasing everyone from serfdom and elevating them to free citizens. The news hits like a truck, leaving Eli and the rest of the staff completely paralyzed with shock. This decision has been on her mind for a long time, especially after seeing them toil away in the cornfields. She knows that without their dedication, the harvest would never have been this bountiful. Melfina keeps the momentum going, explaining that the profits of the land should be shared with the people who actually did the work. She wants to ensure that those who built this fortune get their fair cut. Instead of being overjoyed, Eli looks like her entire world is ending. She tearfully asks if this means they are being fired because they are no longer needed. The situation spirals into a total misunderstanding as Melfina frantically tries to explain herself. Eli falls to her knees and begs to stay, promising to work for her command until the day she dies. Melfina starts explaining the cold, hard reality of serfdom to a sobbing Eli. Without their freedom, they can never own land or build up any real assets. She's not planning to leave them high and dry, though. She wants everyone to keep working together on her new business ventures as free citizens. Freedom means they finally get a choice in their career paths. They could become apprentices to merchants or even skilled technicians at the mines instead of just farming. It also means they have the right to leave. If their memories of this land are too painful, they can sell their property and start a new life with their families. Cedric finally speaks up, arguing that there is zero precedent for freeing an entire labor force like this. Melfina just smiles and tells him they will be the very first example. She tells him it is not that deep and that he is probably just overthinking it. Our MC uses a knight analogy to really drive the point home. She asks Cedric if a knight would ever stay loyal to a master who refused to reward their hard work. Melfina looks off into the distance, dreaming of a world where kindness actually exists. She believes that having something to hope for is the only way to keep moving forward. Cedric watches her silently as she confirms that creating this kind of world is her ultimate goal. However, she can't help but think about how different things were for the version of herself in the original game. In that timeline, no matter how hard she worked to be the perfect lady, the world never gave her anything back. She lived a life of constant disappointment, wishing for just a shred of hope that actually rewarded effort. Seeing those memories makes her realize just how cruel this world can be when you have no power. Cedric takes a moment to process her words before bowing deeply in respect. He admits that her decision is actually wise, fully acknowledging her authority as his lady. He steps forward, ready to follow her lead without any more hesitation. The sudden praise catches our MC off guard. Hearing a hardened knight say he is deeply impressed by her vision leaves her blushing and speechless. Cedric starts getting real about his past attitude, admitting he didn't get her at all when they first arrived. He used to look down on her as a sheltered noble who was just asking for trouble. Melfina just gives a sheepish laugh, knowing she probably did look pretty defenseless back then. Things started shifting after that, with Cedric finally backing off and letting her do her thing. He even started helping out with the heavy lifting around the village, trading his sword for a grain sack. Our girl noticed the change immediately, realizing her guard was finally starting to meet her halfway. Cedric admits he was sweating bullets while watching her work, thinking she was just messing around with straw and fire. He was genuinely worried about where she was heading with all those weird experiments. His doubt turned into pure admiration as he looked over the flourishing fields. She really brought hope and happiness to every corner of this land. Placing a hand over his heart, he tells her she is the literal light of the Enkar region. Our MC is caught completely off guard by the sudden high praise. Melfina tries to play it cool, thinking it is all just knowledge from her past life gaming. She brushes it off as an exaggeration, giving credit to everyone else's hard work instead. Cedric takes a formal bow, finally ready to give his answer. He chooses to stay by her side and work diligently for the people of Enkar rather than returning to his old life. A warm thank you from our girl seals the deal. Cedric smiles back, grateful she finally showed him the right path to follow as the villagers start cheering for their success. Marie lists off all the wins, from the successful harvest to everyone finally becoming free citizens. Melfina is blushing from the hype, but things get awkward when the maid jokes about Cedric falling for her. Marie continues poking fun at Cedric for being a bit slow on the uptake, while he just looks confused. Melfina claps her hands to get everyone's attention. announcing a grand festival for the whole village once the harvest and shipping are wrapped up. Our girl wants to celebrate the bounty properly with flatbread sandwiches, plenty of drinks and dancing. Eli is already smiling, ready to go spread the good news to the rest of the settlement. Auguste can't help but jump in, asking if he is allowed to join the party since it sounds so fun. Melfina reminds him that he is a high-ranking official and might start rumors if he stays here too long. He just laughs it off, claiming that since he works triple time during emergencies, he has earned triple the vacation. She tells him he can join once that vacation is actually approved, then immediately pivots back to construction plans. Melfina wants to expand the manor and build new quarters before winter hits, mostly because she wants to reinvest her profits as fast as possible. As Melfina keeps listing more upgrades and furniture orders, Augustus starts feeling the pressure. He thought guarding 3,000 gold coins was stressful, but her sheer ambition is even more overwhelming. Melfina's foresight and genuine care for her people really make her shine as a leader. Even a stubborn guy like Cedric has to acknowledge her talent, bowing his head in respect for the woman changing the future of the territory. Auguste takes a trip down memory lane, admitting he was actually jealous of the Duke's position. He tells himself his only job was to follow orders, but those old feelings are starting to bubble back up. Our boy knows the Duke is a lost cause when it comes to romance. Since the man refuses to love or be loved by anyone, he can't help but wonder what would have happened if his master hadn't rejected Melfina so harshly. If things had gone differently, Melfina would be the official mistress of the House of Oldland right now. Auguste stares off into the distance, lost in a deep game of what if. Watching Melfina chat with her crew, Auguste realizes the Duke let a true legend slip through his fingers. Someone calls out to him as he breaks into a cold sweat, knowing they fumbled the bag of the century. Summer is wrapping up, and Enkar is basically a trade hub now. Carts of corn are constantly moving out to keep the capital fed. Melfina steps out in a main character sun hat, feeling the vibe of the busy village. It is wild how much this place has grown since the corn harvest took off. The local specialty is the star of the show. Flatbread sandwiches are officially the flavour of the festival. Stores are serving up pork and eggs in a red sauce, and the line is moving fast. They have even got corn tea to keep everyone hydrated while they shop. Our girl Melfina grabs a snack and tells the vendor to keep the change. That taco looks stacked and ready to be the best meal of the day. She stops to vibe with the workers who are absolutely thriving. They are motivated to work harder than ever now that they have actually got food in their bellies. The village is so packed that the team has to scout for a spot to eat in the corner. Marie is baffled that there's no tax on the stalls yet, but Melfina is playing the long game. Selling goods for cash is a total culture shock for a village that usually just trades grain for eggs. Melfina realized that without a proper tax system, managing this massive boom is going to be a logistics nightmare. Most tax collectors in this world are just corrupt elites who love to invent random fees on the fly. They basically bleed farmers and merchants dry just to keep their own wallets fat. While grabbing a quick bite, Melfina thinks about how broken the whole setup is. Letting individuals decide tax rates at their own discretion is a disaster waiting to happen. Looking at the growing crowds, our MC starts to worry about the vibe in town. Groups of labourers are already hanging out and drinking in the streets after their shifts. The Duke was in such a rush to move the corn that his team probably hired anyone with a pulse. Melfina knows they needed the help, but the lack of screening is a major red flag for safety. With everyone out in the fields during the day, the houses are sitting ducks for any opportunistic thieves. Even with knights on patrol, the security gaps are making everyone pretty uneasy. The village chief breaks the news that the transport workers have started a massive tent city just outside of town. Since they get paid by the load, they are camping out overnight and the locals are already losing their patience. Melfina, Marie and Cedric survey the mess left behind by the constant rotation of workers. The camp is a disaster of trash and old clothes that never seems to get smaller. Since the knights stay within the village walls, these workers are left to their own devices. They are lighting fires for cooking and protection, which is basically a ticking time bomb for a massive blaze. Marie realizes that chasing them off is useless because they would just pitch their tents somewhere else. These guys can't move out with empty wagons in the middle of the night anyway. Cedric is ready to go full guard mode and drive them away with force. Our girl is not about that life yet, pointing out that they haven't actually done anything wrong. The team worries that this campsite could turn into a permanent slum if people start settling in. Melfina considers setting up specific zones and fines, even if it causes a bit of backlash. The map of Enkar shows the real problem is a total lack of space. The village does not even have a single inn or diner to handle this many people at once. Major changes are going to be necessary if she wants to keep developing the area. Melfina stops to think if she's actually ready to pull the trigger on such a big move. Watching the endless line of wagons, our MC knows this logistics nightmare is only temporary. Once the corn trade with the Duke wraps up, the village will go back to being quiet next year. Looking down at her boots, Melfina starts to second-guess herself. She wonders if trying to flip this entire region is just her being selfish. More prosperity means more people, which always leads to more drama. Part of her thinks staying a low-key frontier village would have been the safer choice. The real kicker is that she does not even know if she will be allowed to stay here forever. Even if she leaves the Duke, her own family will probably not let her live in peace. Making big moves without backup is basically asking for a family civil war. The Crawford house has enough power to drag her back whenever they feel like it. They could easily snatch her up and toss her into a monastery if she becomes too much of a headache. Melfina knows that if she quits halfway, the people who actually live here will pay the price. Her deep thoughts are cut short when someone calls out her name. Marie is suddenly in her feelings, admitting it feels like Melfina is about to drift away to some distant place. She tries to brush it off, but the mood is definitely getting a bit heavy. Our MC just stares back in silence after the sudden deep talk. Marie offers a quick apology, quickly backing off after her weird comment. The heavy atmosphere breaks instantly when Rena and her dad come rushing over to say hello. Turns out the kid is supposed to be working, but she is currently vibing on a break. Looking out at the sea of wagons, Rena celebrates seeing the village finally coming to life. It is a huge shift from the quiet days, and Melfina is just glad to see the progress. Success is visible in every pile of grain sacks, proving her farming strats were actually legit. The fields are finally healthy again, exactly like she predicted. Seeing everyone eat their fill makes the whole scene feel like a big party to Rena. Her dad is just standing there slightly stunned, since he has never seen this many people in one place before. Rena stands her ground against the intimidating outsiders, since she knows they're all here to help. She looks ahead with excitement, already wondering what fun thing happens next. Nid gets emotional, thanking Melfina for making their daily lives actually worth living. Rena is just happy to be included in the vibe. The sudden gratitude catches her off guard, leaving her speechless for a moment. She quickly turns to Cedric and Marie to hide her blushing face. Looking out at the bustling workers, she dreams of making the Enkar region even bigger and stronger. Innovation is the goal, and she wants to see her people creating things they never thought possible. She wants a world where hard work actually pays off for everyone. In her mind, prosperity should be the natural result of effort, not just a lucky break. Cedric and Marie are not letting her take the humble route, insisting that none of this would exist without her. They have seen her work firsthand and know she is the real deal. A sudden realization hits her as she keeps moving forward. She wonders why she was ever being so timid when she has all this support. She has officially done everything possible to secure the village against the coming famine. There is still a mountain of lord duties waiting for her, but she is done worrying about her limits. Melfina is done playing small. She decides it is time to stop worrying about what she can do and just do everything she wants. Standing tall with her most loyal allies, she makes a vow for them to find happiness together. The vibe shifts instantly when a fluffy corgi enters the chat. Cedric is low-key confused, asking if this tiny guy is really a sheepdog, but Melfina reveals she had a breeder bring him in personally. Cedric wonders why the sudden pet addition, but Melfina just gives him a mysterious smile. She calls it a sign of her resolve to stay and thrive. Looking out over the village, she knows this land is finally her home. She smiles warmly, asking everyone to take care of her as they move forward. Surrounded by the squad, she introduces the newest member of the family. Meet Felice, the official mascot of their new beginning. Restructuring the entire village, Lutz looks like he just heard the craziest pitch of his life. Melfina is not playing around. She plans to build a central plaza and expand the whole town from there. Right now, the layout is a chaotic sprawl of houses and random chicken coops. Narrow paths lead to nowhere and make navigation a nightmare. Lutz tries to stay polite. He admits they have managed to survive this long, even if the current roads are a mess. Our girl knows that once trade picks up, vague boundaries will lead to constant fights. Nobody wants neighbors bickering over every inch of dirt. Reorganizing the district now is the ultimate pro-gamer move. She wants to get the foundation right before any new infrastructure starts going up. The village chief has one major concern. He points out that even with their new earnings, building entire houses from scratch is a huge financial stretch. Melfina drops a major truth bomb on the village chief. She discovered that Enkar has been overpaying taxes for years, and she finally managed to recover all those lost funds. The paper trail was obvious once she started digging. Pioneer settlements are supposed to have massive tax breaks, yet these people were somehow losing half their harvest to the government. It turns out the local officials were running a massive scam behind the scenes. Melfina did not just stop the fraud, she forced them to pay back every cent they stole from the past. While Duke Alexis is a difficult man, he has zero tolerance for corruption. He stripped the thieves of their assets and covered the remaining bill out of his own pocket to make things right. Enkar was never a lost cause. It was just a victim of total negligence. The previous lords never bothered to attract investors or send the technical support the region desperately needed. In this world, most farmers use a standard 3-field rotation to keep the soil fertile. They cycle through wheat and beans while letting one plot rest to recover its nutrients. But here in Enkar, they were using ancient, primitive methods that almost guaranteed failure. Looking at the broken carts and rusted tools, it is clear that no actual expert has set foot here in decades. Melfina looks away, remembering that this region was the most abandoned and brutal place in the kingdom according to the original game lore. Lutz points out a major catch regarding the recovered taxes, explaining that since property records were a mess, the gold legally belongs to the current lord. He suggests using the money for the village anyway, but Melfina is caught off guard. She asks him to clarify and he confirms that the treasure is technically hers to keep. She rests her chin on her hand, deep in thought about what to do with this sudden windfall. Our girl eventually shakes her head and admits that keeping the money for herself just would not feel right. She wants to use that gold to overwrite the village's dark past with something actually good for everyone. Lutz is clearly moved by her kindness. He notes how cold the winters get in these parts and agrees that they should focus on keeping the village warm this year. Lutz is feeling the vision. He believes that if they keep replacing the bad memories with good ones, Enkar will eventually outshine the capital. Melfina is all about that energy. She is fully on board with the idea and hopes they can make it a reality. As the carriage rolls away, the reality of winter sets in. It is a brutal season that usually steals lives, and the people spend every day just praying for it to end. Lutz watches the local kids and gets hit with a wave of emotion. He never imagined a better life for himself, but seeing a future where the next generation grows up safe and warm is a total game changer. Our boy shakes off the sentimental vibes. He tells himself he is way too old to be dreaming like a kid, even though the hope is clearly written all over his face. Moving on to the next project, a professional from the Architect Guild joins the meeting. Ricardo is trying his best to process a very unusual request for a basement. Melfina confirms she is thinking big. She wants this project to be massive and asks if he can actually pull off something on that scale. Ricardo reviews the blueprints and admits that while the build is possible, the scale is absolutely massive. She is asking for 2 separate structures that would together equal the size of 2 large merchant houses from the capital. He points out that such large basements would weaken the soil and require an expensive amount of support pillars. Between the initial construction and long-term maintenance, the costs might actually cancel out any savings from the land. When he asks about the vision for the space, Melfina explains it is meant for an ale brewery. Ricardo suggests scaling the project down since they are in a rush to beat the winter, but she is not interested in shrinking the plan. She gives him a cheerful look and makes it clear that she is not compromising on the size because she absolutely needs it this way. Ricardo is left wondering if she is really trying to start a professional brewing business or just playing around with the idea. Plenty of lords try to turn tax grain into specialty ale to boost their status, but very few actually produce anything worth drinking. Making top-tier ale is a difficult craft that takes more than just a large basement to master. Regardless of his personal skepticism, he decides that his job is to build what the client asks for. He puts his doubts aside and officially agrees to the project. Ricardo suggests getting a magic user to help with the excavation since the village is already a busy construction zone. It is a solid plan to speed things up, but Melfina has her own strategy in mind. He points out that a professional guild team could knock out the hole in just 2 days. Our girl shuts that down immediately because she wants to keep the work local and support her own people. Since the harvest is over, the villagers have plenty of free time and energy for some heavy lifting. Ricardo realizes that hiring the locals is a win for the budget and agrees to the plan. She is turning this into a legit job with fair pay instead of just a favor. With no guild in town, the responsibility of managing the new crew falls on the village chief's son. Ricardo takes a moment to realize just how different this lord is from the usual noble. He is starting to see that she actually cares about her people and knows how to rule properly. Dropping a project right before winter is a strategic move to keep the village economy from stalling. It is a survival play that ensures everyone has the resources they need to make it through the cold. The architect is just relieved that his crew will be fed and busy for the foreseeable future. Rebuilding an entire community from the ground up is the kind of opportunity that only comes once in a lifetime. Ricardo notes that simply building a new street isn't enough for people to feel an attachment to their home. Real community takes more than just fresh paint and new roofs. Melfina explains her strategy. She wants the villagers to build the town themselves so they can feel a true sense of ownership over the land they cleared. She admits that including them might make his job harder, but building a shell without people is pointless. Ricardo takes the point and officially commits to the vision. Our girl is genuinely excited and confesses that owning a brewery has always been a dream of hers. Ricardo just stares, likely realizing he is working for a very unique noble. He starts calculating the recipe in his head, figuring that ale is simple enough to manage. He also realizes that having a beautiful lady as the brewer is going to be a massive hit with the locals. He asks to be the first in line for a taste test once the batch is done. With the plans finalized, the territory officially dives into a full-blown construction boom. The sudden influx of outsiders creates a massive demand for goods, so they set up a temporary free market. They build housing for the workers and give the locals the green light to start trading. Observing the local market, Marie notes that many workers are realizing sales isn't for them and are heading back to the farms. Melfina isn't worried and suggests they can always pivot to her upcoming restaurant project. After being stuck in her office for days, the Duchess finally steps out to clear her head. Marie agrees that a change of scenery is the best way to keep her mind sharp. Melfina makes her rounds through the village, leaving the local star-struck in her wake. Marie jokes that rumors are already spreading about how her presence alone boosts the entire crew's productivity. While Melfina enjoys the peaceful vibe, her guard's intense presence is the real reason the villagers are working so hard. She laughs it off, unaware that his stern management is what's keeping the town on schedule. Rodo suddenly appears, rushing over to greet his favorite noble. It's a rare sight to see the kid in the main village instead of his own settlement. The boy explains that since the fields have plenty of hands, he's been helping out in town to earn some extra pocket money. Melfina is happy to see him taking such a proactive interest in the community. In this world, kids are expected to contribute to the family income as soon as they're able. Whether it's the fields or an apprenticeship, starting work early is just part of the daily grind. Serfs were previously banned from doing anything besides farming, but things are changing. Now that they are free, it is cool to see the kids showing interest in different kinds of work. Melfina spots Rodo busy at work and asks what he is up to. He flashes a grin and says he is helping with the calculations, leaving her completely stunned. The foreman steps in to explain that he taught the kids some basic math during their breaks just for fun. Apparently, the little guy became a pro at calculating brick counts faster than the actual workers. He admits that he has already started handing off the simpler math jobs to the boy. Melfina can barely process how fast this kid is learning. The man gives the kid a head pat and mentions that he has some serious talent. He even suggests sending him to the city to become an apprentice once he gets officially blessed by the church. It hits Melfina that talent is a very real, tangible thing in this world. She looks at the kid in a whole new light. In this society, once a child's natural talent blooms and they receive a temple blessing, that skill becomes a permanent part of their identity. It is basically a real-life RPG stat system. Melfina recalls the time she received her own blessing at the temple as a child. Getting the appraisal skill back then was actually a major letdown for her. Since noble kids are constantly surrounded by luxury, they naturally develop a high-tier eye for quality. This makes the appraisal talent a total waste for the elite, even if merchants would do anything to have it. Her version of the skill is pretty weak by comparison. Still, it proves to be useful every now and then. The crew tells Rodo that he is a math prodigy for mastering 4-digit numbers in only 3 days. They want him to know that his talent is anything but ordinary. Melfina jumps in to suggest that he should get an official blessing from the church to lock in that talent. Rodo just gives a shy laugh while soaking in the praise. She paints a picture of a bright future where he could become a master craftsman or even a high-level alchemist. It is the kind of career path most kids in this world only dream of. To everyone's surprise, the boy gives a firm shake of his head. He turns down the golden opportunity without a second thought, leaving Melfina in shock. Melfina assumes the kid is just scared of leaving home, but he snaps back that she has it all wrong while his knuckles go white. She is left speechless when he suddenly goes cold, head down as he claims he is not going anywhere. Cedric tries to intervene with a stern look, but Melfina quickly signals him to back off and let the boy speak. The knight looks the boy in the eye and tells him straight up that being smart does not make Melfina a mind reader. He tells the kid to act like a man and speak his truth now, or spend the rest of his life wondering, what if? The boy mentions how his father talks about Melfina's big plans for the region, and she confirms that making this place thrive is her top priority. He clarifies that he is not actually interested in moving to some massive city and starting over. Rodo finally snaps, yelling that he doesn't want to leave. He just wants to stay and help Melfina build her dream kingdom. Melfina's jaw hits the floor as the kid shouts that he only studied math to be useful to her. He makes it clear he is not going anywhere. End of story. Total surrender from Melfina. She apologizes for the misunderstanding, while Rodo just huffs and tells her to never suggest sending him away again. Little man energy is off the charts. He tells her to stop apologizing because he hates seeing her lower her head for any reason. Melfina wonders how Cedric knew exactly what was going on in the kid's head. The knight just looks cool and says it is a guy thing. Back on the grind, Melfina plans to get Rodo an official blessing to secure his future in the region. She knows his talent is going to be huge for the village's growth. Cedric drops the cheat code, telling her that if she says more skills make him more useful to her, the kid will sign up in a heartbeat. Melfina just stares, processing the high-level bro logic she just heard. Looking out at the mountain peaks, she wonders if this is really what they call the male aesthetic. Marie makes her grand return to the manor with a fresh report in hand. Melfina looks up from her desk with a smile, glad to see her top aide is back from the field. The inspection of the roads and housing is officially complete. Marie asks for permission to drop the latest updates on the construction progress. Melfina feels a bit guilty about making Marie do all the heavy lifting out there. Even with the best builders and managers on the job, the sheer amount of paperwork requiring a lord's signature keeps her stuck in this chair. Marie tells her not to sweat it because she is already tracking the tool and material inventory too. Our MC is literally glowing, realizing she has the most cracked secretary in the kingdom. Marie hands over the summary for review. The logistics look solid so far. especially since they repurposed the old corn huts to keep the timber dry. There is a new request from the field that catches her eye. The brick and tile craftsmen are asking to build more kilns to keep up with the demand. The village is running a full-scale local supply chain. They are pulling timber from the nearby woods and digging up high-quality clay from the lake to pump out bricks as fast as possible. Marie reports that the construction is moving so fast, the brick kilns cannot keep up. Foundations for new homes are already going down, but the supply chain is hitting a serious bottleneck. Our MC wants the villagers settled before winter, so she orders as many kilns as they need to be built. She mentions they can just repurpose the structures later, which leaves Marie wondering what else she has planned. The boss reveals her next big strategy. She wants to start producing charcoal, and she is planning to do it on a huge scale. Marie sees that look in her eyes and starts to worry. She asks if this large amount is actually going to be some game-breaking quantity. Melfina explains that charcoal is versatile and the byproducts are too useful to ignore. Marie takes notes as they prepare to scale up the local industry. Moving on to the daily schedule, Marie mentions that Ricardo the architect wants a meeting after lunch. The boss gives the green light, keeping the expansion project on track. Then comes the real news. Rad is finally back from the capital with that special order, and our girl is so hyped, she nearly flips the table, sprinting down the stairs like she is late for a raid. Melfina ignores the guards begging her to slow down. One of them actually has to shout for her to be careful before she trips over her own dress. Arriving at the manor after lunch, the lead worker waits by the door for their scheduled check-in. He keeps it professional and thanks his boss for carving out time in her busy day. Our MC tells him to grab a seat so they can talk business. Construction is ahead of schedule because the village workers are absolute beasts who want everything finished before the winter frost hits. While the progress news is great, the foreman brings up a specific update about the local supply chain. He mentions they were running dangerously low on bricks and tiles until a sharp observer sounded the alarm. Scratching his head, he admits his own apprentices missed the warning signs entirely. A random kid from the settlement was the one who spotted the bottleneck, which led to the foreman yelling at his whole crew for being lazy. The realization hits our MC that the foreman is talking about Rodo. It turns out the boy used math to calculate the exact day the materials would run out just by looking at the house plans and inventory. According to the foreman, the kid has always been sharp, but lately he has become someone the entire crew can actually lean on. Melfina pivots the meeting to check on the progress of the settlement longhouses to ensure everyone has a roof over their heads soon. Our girl admits she wants to give everyone a private home, but reality is a bit more complicated. Handing out free houses to the new arrivals would tank local morale, especially for the original villagers paying taxes. To solve the housing crisis, she introduces a longhouse system. Each unit fits 16 families and includes shared kitchen and bathroom setups. Those communal toilets are part of a bigger plan. She is launching a sanitation revolution to replace the old habit of just tossing waste into the streets. Old habits die hard, so she knows people won't stop dumping trash overnight. This is just the first step toward a cleaner village. As the landlord of these units, she has total authority over the rules. It is much easier to enforce high standards when you actually own the place. Rent is going to be strictly business. These new farmers will pay for their rooms using a portion of the grain and corn they harvest in the fields. Our girl gazes at the construction site, envisioning a future where every worker can finally save up enough to buy their own home. She wants to bridge the social gap between the original villagers and the new arrivals so everyone feels like part of the same community. Back at the table, she asks Ricardo if the guild can send a pottery expert for a custom project. The architect is intrigued and asks what kind of special request she has in mind. She explains that she needs a custom order of ceramic braziers for burning charcoal safely indoors. Since Ricardo has never seen one, she clarifies that they are meant for heating and humidifying every single home before the first snow. Building a local kiln would be more efficient for such a large order, but Ricardo wonders why she is going to so much trouble. She is determined to replace dangerous smoky hearths with a safer way for everyone to stay warm. Ricardo realizes that these braziers do more than just heat the room. They let families cook small meals at home so they don't always have to rely on the shared village kitchen. Our girl explains that communal ovens are great for saving wood, but keeping people indoors during winter is the real priority. Eliminating that trek through the freezing snow is a game changer for comfort. Ricardo asks about the charcoal supply, but Melfina is way ahead of him. She plans to repurpose the brick kilns to make their own stock right there in the village. Charcoal is more than just fuel. The leftovers can improve the soil, and the ash works as a cleaning agent or fertilizer. Even the byproduct liquid can be used as a natural pesticide. Marie records the plan to keep the village self-sufficient for years to come. Ricardo goes quiet for a second before telling the Duchess he has a special request. She looks a bit caught off guard by the sudden shift in tone. He drops a bombshell and asks if she can take in a few of his craftsmen as permanent citizens. Everyone at the table is stunned by the unexpected proposal. Ricardo asks if she is serious about them moving in permanently, since finding even basic tool repairmen was impossible before. Melfina looks over the paperwork while weighing the logistics of such a huge move. Timing might have been the issue, or maybe the guild just failed her, but she is certain the protocol was followed perfectly. This world runs on a guild monopoly where you either go through their apprenticeship or you don't get to work. It is a closed system that ensures only authorized people can practice a trade. Clients stick with the official channels because the guild provides insurance against sloppy work and handles all the punishments. It is the only way to guarantee a job actually gets done right. High-level craftsmen won't waste time in a small village just to sharpen farm tools for low pay. Melfina worries that moving her way would cause these men to lose their professional track records. Ricardo explains that the top-tier talent a lord needs isn't usually found through official guild lists anyway. Since Enkar has no local guild, it is the perfect spot for workers to bypass the usual red tape. Cedric realizes this means they are looking at craftsmen who are essentially blacklisted or off the grid. Melfina goes quiet as the potential danger of the plan finally starts to click. Ricardo explains that the guild is basically a giant gatekeeper. Even if you're the best worker, one bad bridge burnt means you're never working in this town again. Skilled workers are being turned away for the smallest mistakes. Ricardo just wants to give the talented ones a fair shot at a stable life. Melfina asks if he will be their personal sponsor. He hits his chest with a heavy promise, swearing he will vouch for their character himself. That was all she needed to hear, since he is willing to put his reputation on the line. She gives the green light. She is even offering to build workshops and homes on her own dime. Ricardo is losing his mind because he only expected the bare minimum. It is actually a smart investment for the village. Melfina wants these experts to move in for the long term and teach the local kids their trade. Ricardo is touched by her respect for the craft. He is already thinking of a few blacksmiths and carpenters who would jump at a deal this good. The foreman admits he would move here in a heartbeat if he didn't have his own crew to manage. Melfina tells him he is always welcome, and he promises to recruit some top-tier smiths and carpenters for the village. Marie suggests that in 10 years, this village will be the go-to spot for every elite craftsman in the region. The foreman laughs at the dream, picturing a future town famous for its food and local wine. Accepting the responsibility, Melfina resolves to make that vision a reality over the next decade. She heads back inside to start the next round of work. Back at the manor, the to-do list is already piling up. She tries to give her team a day off, but they aren't interested in leaving her to do everything alone. Cedric remains glued to his post as her guard. Marie is already planning to scout the village for any logistical gaps they might have missed. It looks like she has recruited a squad that is just as addicted to working as she is. She watches the hourglass, knowing she will have to find a way to force some rest on them later. 3 elite craftsmen have finally arrived. Carl, Luis, and Roy look over the new blueprints with serious focus. It is a massive project, but they are confident they can get these ceramic braziers finished before winter. Ankar just gained 3 high-tier residents. While Nid cheers in the background, the group discusses building a prototype with metal reinforcements for cooking. The pros are shocked by the advanced designs and ask if she came up with them herself. Melfina keeps it humble, telling them she just saw the idea in an old book. The first batch of local charcoal arrives for inspection. Melfina explains that while it costs more to produce than firewood, they have an endless supply of wood from clearing the nearby forest. The craftsmen are stunned by the quality. Roy notes it is excellent charcoal and asks if they already hired professional burners. Melfina drops the bombshell. These high-quality samples were actually made by the untrained settlers. One of the pros taps the wood and cannot believe his ears. The quality is so high, he thinks a master burner made it, but it was just regular villagers. Melfina sweetens the deal even more. She offers them free materials for 3 years, just so they can focus on their craft without worrying about the bill. The guys are stunned by the offer. While the others celebrate their luck, Carl just stands there looking like he has seen a ghost. Luis gives him a quick nudge to snap him out of it. Carl's heart is full because he has never been treated this well by an employer. Our girl does not stop there. She invites the whole crew to a welcome lunch to celebrate their first day in Enkar. Luis and Roy are down for the feast, but Carl is so motivated he wants to head straight to the workshop. He is ready to put in that overtime immediately. The meal is a total hit. They are housing flatbread and top-tier ale while realizing they just landed the absolute dream job. One of the workers is completely stuffed and cannot stop hyping up the flatbread and that top-tier sauce. He turns to Melfina and asks if the ale is actually as incredible as it seems. The drink goes down so smooth, it is dangerously easy to finish the whole mug. It has a refreshing kick that makes you want to keep pouring. Melfina admits the ale is still a work in progress and needs another week of aging to be perfect. She even apologizes for the small serving, but the guys are already sold. In this world, keeping the craftsmen hydrated is the standard way to show respect for their hard labor. A good drink can even act as a sneak peek of their future paycheck. Melfina tells them they are welcome back anytime once the brew is finished, especially if they bring Carl along. Roy stays silent while he takes in the offer. Roy suddenly drops a deep bow and begs for forgiveness regarding his friend's blunt attitude. He is stressing out, thinking Carl might have offended the lady of the house. Our girl tells him there is no need for apologies because she understands that elite craftsmen are often a bit prickly. She did not feel disrespected by him at all. Ricardo looks pretty stressed as he tries to explain the complicated drama behind his friend's attitude. He asks Melfina for permission to give her the full background story. Our girl is a bit hesitant because she does not want to go digging into someone's private life. She realizes that her modern views on human rights do not really fit this fantasy world yet. As a lord, she needs to stay ahead of any potential issues, so she tells him to go ahead. Ricardo starts by checking if she understands how the journeyman system works for craftsmen. Melfina is already one step ahead and explains the whole training process. She knows it is a long grind where workers have to serve under a boss before they can ever lead. The system is basically a multi-year quest that starts with doing chores as a young apprentice. After learning the basics, they have to travel to different cities to pick up new skills from other workshops. They can only return home to take their master exam after spending years on the road. Ricardo is impressed that she is so well informed about the local labor laws. He confirms that this journey is the only way for a craftsman to eventually open their own shop. Without that specific title, they are stuck as employees forever. The architect drops a major truth bomb about the dark side of the industry. He explains that masters often use these mandatory travels as a way to exile any worker who is actually talented. Melfina is confused why a boss would ever want to get rid of their best performer. It turns out the guild keeps a strict limit on the number of master positions available in each town. Since you cannot even get a job without an official workshop, the old masters hold all the power and refuse to retire. It is a bottleneck that stops the younger generation from ever moving up the ladder. Ricardo explains that most masters just pass their shops down to their kids like a family inheritance. Melfina finally connects the dots and realizes why the system is so rigged. She asks what happens if an apprentice is actually better than the boss. Roy confirms it is a total trap because being too talented just makes the masters want to get rid of you even faster. Being forced to travel with no money or plan is a straight-up death sentence. He explains that plenty of workers end up robbed by bandits or just starve to death on the side of the road. Even if you survive the trip, there is no guarantee your old shop will even take you back. Most guys end up stuck doing manual labor for pennies until their elite skills completely rot away. Roy admits they were facing that exact same fate until Ricardo stepped in to save them. Our girl is genuinely horrified by how cutthroat this world can be. Getting rehired is only an option for the lucky few who stayed on the master's good side. Melfina asks if Carl is going through this same mess. Roy goes even deeper into the tragedy. It turns out their friend Carl suffered a major leg injury right before he was supposed to head out on his journey. Roy drops a major reality check and reveals that Carl's injury was not an accident. He was actually assaulted by a senior craftsman who was jealous of his talent. Back in the day, the two were inseparable apprentices who spent every night dreaming about their futures. They even made a pact to see which one of them would become the greatest master after their travels. Carl was a total perfectionist who would hammer iron until it was flawless, no matter how long it took. But being the best in the shop just made the lazy guys around him start plotting his downfall. The truth comes out that the master's son-in-law was the one who permanently crippled him. Roy is fuming, insisting that his friend's skills at the forge are still second to none. Because of the injury, Carl was stuck in a nightmare where he had to serve the man who ruined him just to survive. Roy admits they only came here because it was the only way to keep their craft alive without being treated like slaves. In a total bro move, Roy offers to work double shifts just to make up for any delays his friend might cause. He asks Melfina to let them stay, promising that he will personally pick up all the slack. Melfina gives him a warm smile and tells him to take a breather. She's not about that toxic grind and tells them that working at their own pace is more than enough for the village. In a pioneer village, beginners usually have to learn how to build everything from scratch by watching others. Having actual professionals show up is a huge help. Melfina thanks Roy and Luis for opening up and tells them she is counting on their expertise. She even gives them the green light to recruit more of their friends, promising that craftsmen will always be valued in her territory. She puts her hand over her heart and tells them how much she respects people who dedicate their entire lives to mastering a craft. It is a level of sincerity they probably never expected from a noble. The two men are so moved they practically explode with motivation, shouting that they will work their hardest. They promise to deliver results that will blow her away. She sees them off, reminding them that the first priority is getting those braziers ready for the winter. Cedric just watches from the sidelines, noting that Melfina managed to accidentally recruit another pair of die-hard fans. With the winter prep finally moving along, our girl takes a moment to breathe and check her progress. Now that the basics are covered, she is ready to tackle her next big project. She drops the T word on the village chief, catching him off guard. She explains that she wants to set up proper communal toilets for the entire village, not just the new housing. We're finally tackling the one Isekai topic that every game conveniently leaves out. If she's going to build a kingdom, she has to deal with the unavoidable reality of human waste. The current setup is a straight-up biohazard where people just chuck buckets out the window. It is a level of medieval vibes that our girl is definitely not ready for. Back at the drawing board, the lead architect wants to know the logic behind her latest pitch. He knows her ideas are always wild, so he's looking for the method to the madness. The boss shuts down his overprotective apprentice before he can kill the vibe. Understanding the goal is the only way to get the job done right, especially when it's for their favourite lord. Lesson 1. The street buckets are actually a huge health risk. The master agrees that the smell is legendary, but she's more worried about the things they can't see. Rotting waste is basically a 5-star hotel for rats and disease. She drops the truth on why this system is a disaster, then blows his mind by calling the trash wasteful. He's following her logic on the plague part, but the value part is a total mystery. The dude has no idea how literal garbage could ever be worth something. Melfina opens the floor for a strategy session with her lead architect. She knows he is already familiar with her previous fertilizer experiments. Ricardo admits that the legendary harvests in Enkar are well known. He recalls the strange mix of bones and food scraps she used to boost the soil. She takes a deep breath and pitches the unthinkable. Using human waste to grow food is a hard sell, and she needs to know if the ick factor is too high. The crew looks stunned, but our girl is just thinking back to her past life. She explains how landlords in the Edo period used to make a fortune selling waste because it was such a high-tier fertilizer. Ricardo keeps it real and warns her that there will be resistance. Dealing with filth is something most people avoid at all costs, and it usually just leads to trouble. The logistics are a nightmare, as transporting the waste is a job everyone hates. She refuses to force anyone into that kind of labor, even if the town needs it. Marie breaks the silence by suggesting a trial run at the serf settlement. Melfina is caught off guard, wondering if the residents there would really be up for the task. Marie suggests starting the project at the former serf settlement since the people there already trust Melfina. They are used to hard labor and won't be bothered by the messier parts of the new fertilizer plan. Ricardo pitches a strategy to make the transition easier for the rest of the village. He proposes giving the waste fertilizer away for free until the results prove it is worth the effort. Our girl feels a bit conflicted about taking advantage of their loyalty, but Marie assures her it is the opposite. The villagers are actually happy to support the lord who gave them a real future. Melfina takes the advice and decides to discuss the logistics with the settlement leader soon. When she tries to move on to the construction phase, she notices the architect is staring off into space. She has to call out his name just to get his head back in the game. Ricardo apologizes and explains that he is still getting used to a noble who actually cares about his opinion. Most high-ranking clients are far too prideful to listen to a commoner's advice. Ricardo mentions how stressful it usually is to work for royalty in the capital. Melfina just smiles and explains that she values her team's expertise because she knows she can't do everything alone. Melfina gets straight to business and asks for the technical specs on the new toilet designs. Nid slaps the table, admitting that most of the villagers are still scratching their heads over how this system is even supposed to work. The blueprints show a classic squat pit design. Nid explains the plan involves digging deep, waterproofed holes and building privacy walls around the bowl to keep things discreet. They are starting with public toilets to get everyone used to the habit of going in a specific spot. Once the concept sticks, the long-term goal is to give every single household their own private stall. Collected waste goes into sealed pits to ferment into fertilizer. It takes about 2 months in the summer heat, but the winter phase is going to need some serious trial and error to get right. Marie stays skeptical, pointing out that typical straw fertilizer needs plenty of air to process correctly. Melfina just smiles and reveals that this special batch follows a completely different set of rules. Time for a quick science lesson. While standard compost needs oxygen-loving bacteria, this night soil relies on anaerobic bacteria that thrive in the dark without any air at all. Marie wonders if they can just use the waste immediately to save time. Our girl explains that the heat from fermentation is a must because it literally cooks off all the nasty parasites and diseases. Marie is stunned, wondering where a noble lady even finds the time to learn niche sanitation science. She plays it off as a library hobby, which is technically true since her past self was a certified bookworm. It turns out her previous life was all about hoarding random trivia to master the complex mechanics of the game world. Cedric gives her props for the high-level planning, but notes that changing lifelong bathroom habits will be a challenge. He remains confident that the villagers will listen to her anyway, especially since they are already used to her constant innovation. Switching gears, she officially hands the massive construction task over to Ricardo. The master architect is more than ready, taking it as a badge of honor to work on such a big project for his lord. Word travels fast when our girl drops a new invention. The villagers are buzzing with excitement because she is building toilets. Believe it or not, people are competing for waste collection duty like it is a prize. Marie just stands there in silence, witnessing the weirdest hype train in history. The system is a hit, with lines already forming outside the new stalls. Watching the smooth operation, Marie realizes her master really is built different. That's it for today, guys. If you made it to the end, comment "peaceful life" so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.